gonna start this thing off because I'm probably not gonna be able to talk that much. I'm just gonna be sitting here talking about Star Wars.
Are you even recording?
Yeah, I am. I'm just gonna.
It's so zoomed out. I can't even see it.
You're gonna be talking about Star Wars the whole time while all this other amazing stuff. I mean, the music world.
No one gives.
Kendrick dropped a mother flipping album.
So.
And if you want to hear me talk about that, you can hear me talk about it on Sight and Sound Music. But Ryan, why don't you tell the kids?
Why don't you make a video for it?
I am. I'm going to review it. Probably going to be doing that tomorrow.
I can't wait to see it.
So yeah, why don't you tell the kids what we're going to be talking about?
Well, I mean, you're putting me on the spot right away. Usually we're just talking at the beginning.
I'm just sort
episodes. You're already
prefacing.
ready to...
No, I'm just prefacing.
Guys, you are in for a real treat today because Jay and I dedicated this entire episode of Sight and Sound Weekly to Star Wars because Star Wars Celebration is happening right this second in Orlando, Florida. We're recording part of this on a Saturday night, so we've seen the bulk of Celebration. You won't even, probably after a later break, we'll be covering the Sunday portion in this podcast. But that's still going on, and there's a ton of news that dropped, whether it be movie news, TV news, and even video game stuff and comic stuff, of course. So that's probably, well, not probably, it definitely will take up this entire show.
Yeah,
and I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm interested to just sort of give my quick thoughts, my hot takes. You know how that goes. But yeah, we do like to start the show off a little bit more relaxed. It's difficult for me to relax right now because I took you out for dinner, took you on a nice little meal. Did you like that?
It was a good meal.
Was it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I wanted some Asian noodles. We went and had, how would you pronounce it?
Pho.
Pho. Whatever.
Poe
Dameron. Can't stand it, Poe Dameron. Look, my belly is full of Asian food and bubble tea, which I exposed you to for the first time. How did you feel about that?
I'm still not sure. What word is that? Bubble tea?
There's bubble tea and boba tea.
Boba tea. Like Boba Fett.
Exactly.
Is it actually like that?
Yeah.
There were a lot of things on the menu that looked like Star Wars words. Like the Mandalorian shrimp. I'm just kidding. There's not Mandalorian shrimp.
Your food kind of looked like when Han had to cut open the tauntaun to shove.
It did.
Shove Luke and such.
And wasn't your boba tea blue?
It was purple.
Oh. I was going to say, it might have looked something like blue milk.
It was purple with black balls in it.
Yeah, I thought it was Aunt Brew's blue milk. But I guess not.
That should be like a Star Wars energy drink. It's like blueberry flavored. I don't know how they make it cloudy like that though.
It would just be milk. Blue milk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't they make blueberry milk like that?
I don't know.
Or maybe they do.
Random question.
I'm sure that's an Asian thing.
Random question. How do you feel about other types of milk besides normal milk? No milk will ever be our milk.
I'll tell you what. Almond milk, sweetened almond milk, and cereal is amazing.
Yeah?
Oh my goodness.
That?
Loved it. I remember getting
vanilla almond milk.
Yeah, it was a vanilla almond milk, and I think I even put it like in a Cheerios. Like the cereal itself was kind of a more boring cereal, but it took it to a new height. Like it didn't even have to be
a new hope.
It didn't even have to be Crunch Berries. It didn't have to be Fruit Loops. That vanilla almond milk made Cheerios into something else entirely, and I loved it. Regular almond milk is just okay. What other milks are there? That's all I've got. I've never had
goat milk.
I don't know. I couldn't.
Coconut milk.
No, I've had coconut water, not coconut milk. That's all the milk I've had. And then of course the chocolate and strawberry.
Banana. Have you ever had banana milk?
Yes, I have.
It's
okay.
It's just
there's a reason why it doesn't stick around.
Yeah. I think people secretly like the openings of our podcast. We did an after party. We did an after party we did one last week that we scrapped. But the first one that we did together, people like that. They like that. I think they like to hear what we have to say about things. But I'm actually, Luke Luke just doesn't listen to the podcast anymore. He just listens to like the first 10 minutes and turns it off.
We're losing him.
He legitimately asked us what our thoughts were on Fast and the Furious 8. And I was like, what? What did you say?
And you did, we've talked about it before on here. You did what Jaye Williams does when being placed in that situation, which is, no, we talked about it on the podcast. Just go over there and listen.
Can I legitimately ask you, like, when I said that, were you proud of me that I didn't nicely put it? Like, well, because you call me out sometimes for being too nice.
Acting nice. Because I know the real you and no one else does. That was a little Palpatine. I don't know if proud is the word. I mean, I think you did exactly what I thought you would do in that situation, because it doesn't really sound mean. I mean, I kind of thought it was a ridiculous question given the fact that we just got done talking about it.
Hey, Luke, we just talked about it, man. It's on the podcast.
What sucks about that?
Luke's an OG though. He's been with us from the very beginning.
I was thinking about the fact that we're gonna have the last word on Celebration. Like, by the time our Sight and Sound Weekly is debuted on Schmo Plus, we will be the last people talking about it. The fact that Collider and Schmoes have already made like 24 videos each, I think it's gonna be pretty funny.
I'm gonna agree and disagree, because we're going to be the last. We're going to have the last word on specifically like what we know of Star Wars Celebration. I guarantee you the Schmoes No Show next week is going to be like fallout from that. You know what I'm saying?
But it'll come out the same day, I guess.
Do you remember when we took in Collider and Schmoes content after Comic-Con, and how all they did was talk about Comic-Con the entire week as if nobody had paid attention?
Yeah, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And we're already coming up on that time again. It's just in a couple months now.
But wait, I wasn't done with the cereal thing and the milk thing, because I have a very important question.
I love cereal. It's in my Twitter bio.
I didn't know that I was unique in this regard. I thought that there was just an understood amount of milk that you are supposed to put in cereal. But not everybody agrees on that. How much milk do you put in your cereal? Like, do you just get enough to sort of just get all of the bits wet?
I would say that I probably fill half of my bowl with milk.
Okay.
Do you pour the milk in first or second?
No. Who does that?
What are you saying no to? I gave you it.
Who pours the milk in first?
I've known some people to pour it in first. You're right.
That's fucking weird.
I don't do it. It's weird.
That's like, I don't know. That's like finding.
That's like putting ice cubes in second, which that makes a mess.
Ice cubes in second? Oh, yeah.
You put the ice cubes in, then it's going to spray out
disperse
everywhere.
The water. Yeah.
That's what that's like.
Yeah, that's like finding out that your friend kisses his mom on the lips.
Hey, Tom Crean, coach of Indiana basketball, he had that famous picture of kissing his adult son on the lips after a Indiana win. What'd you think of that?
I mean, to each their own, but
really? You're going to use to each their own?
Yeah.
In that specific case? I don't think so. I don't think it's ever okay.
Look, it's
I mean, if you were
weird,
a kid,
it's different, but it's weird and different that we spend most of our free time podcasting.
Not at all.
Most people.
You're comparing us spending our time podcasting to other people that may or may not kiss their father on the lips.
I'm not going to judge.
Or mother. It doesn't even have to be a father.
I'm not going to judge.
I am.
I mean, it's so strange.
I'd say I'd fill half the bowl. I fill a lot of the bowl with milk.
Okay.
But it's not, there's still like, if you looked bird's eye view at my bowl, you probably wouldn't see a lot of the milk, but it's there.
Are you a milk drinker once?
At the end?
Yeah.
Yes. And anyone who isn't is a moron.
Sometimes I don't feel good after I drink that milk.
Oh God!
Sometimes
it's always
I'm like,
great.
That's sometimes I had my share of cereal. I don't need the extra milk.
Cereal milk is always the best milk. Always.
What least favorite cereal, most disappointing cereal you've ever had? Because I have a specific answer to this.
Disappointing cereal?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I really love even obscure cereals. I love. Like, I go through phases where I am addicted to something like Raisin Bran.
Yeah.
I mean, Raisin
Cereal
Bran
is weird like that.
Good. Yeah.
Honey Bunches of Oats with almonds. What?
I don't care for that.
Oh, it's so good.
It never. I put in a lot of milk because I want it to moisten.
It's never satisfying.
It never moistens, and it's always just it's just weird for me to eat those almonds in milk.
Did you ever know anybody that liked Lucky Charms but didn't eat the marshmallows?
There are those weird people who pick out only the marshmallows and then leave behind.
Can't do that. What are those other
Apple
things?
Apple Jacks are amazing.
Do you remember when cereals changed shape?
Trix
changed shape.
Trix went from being shaped like fruit to just being balls.
But see, I think it was balls before that. I think it went balls, fruit, balls.
Before the fruit, the only ball cereal I remember was Kix.
Okay.
And I think Kix actually went out of business for a while or something. I think it was Berry Kix that just disappeared from shelves not too long ago. It might be back since then. This is kind of an old topic, but I think it happened.
Did Apple Jacks change shape at one point?
Apple Jacks.
They've always been those salmon colored.
They added the color.
They added green. That's right. That's what it was. Holy shit.
Yeah,
so my most disappointing cereal of all time. I remember when Cookie Crisps came out, and I was like, well, this just sounds great. They're fucking chocolate chip cookies in cereal, and I ate it, and it tastes like shit.
I don't remember. I don't remember being disappointed by it.
It was not good.
I'm weird though. I can even get on board with all those plain cereals, like Frosted Flakes, Corn Flakes. All those have their place.
Yeah,
they might have the most boring box in the aisle, but they're still quality. I've been on a huge Crunch Berries kick recently. I've been eating a lot of Crunch Berries. Sometimes I have Crunch Berries for lunch. Let's
go Mount Rushmore of cereals. 5.
Oh God,
the Mount Rushmore. I'm gonna throw.
Well, there's 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore, not 5.
But there's that in there Native American on the backside of it. Or is that somewhere else?
No, I don't think so.
There's not. There's a statue of a Native American somewhere. I thought it was near that.
Are you simplifying Mount Rushmore into a statue? You're saying a statue of a Native American is the 5th head on Mount Rushmore?
I mean, wait.
Let's do 4.
There's 2 questions.
Let's just do 4 because in every
you just
Mount
issued
Rushmore.
2 questions. Any carving of anything, in my opinion, is technically a statue. That's just what I'm going to label it as. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Okay, 4. Give me your Mount Rushmore of cereals. I'm going to throw 1 out right now. On mine, you could say if you agree or disagree.
Okay.
Reese's Puffs.
Great.
On the Mount Rushmore?
No, but it's valid.
Okay, well, it's on mine. So, okay, throw me one of yours.
I got to go Fruit Loops. Just one of my favorites growing up. I don't know why you're making that face. I mean, Fruit Loops.
Cocoa Pebbles on my list. Why just eat Rice Krispies when you can eat them covered in chocolate?
Because you have to have a chocolate cereal.
Yes.
I'm totally down with that.
It's one of the only cereals that gets a little bit better the more soggy it
Cocoa
gets.
Puffs is great, but I'm willing to go with you on this. Cocoa Pebbles, I'm there. But so that you have 2 chocolate cereals already.
Well, I have a peanut butter chocolate and a chocolate.
Okay.
Not even really a chocolate guy. So yeah, I agree. That's a little strange, but yeah.
Wow. See, I've already used up. I'm not going to pick Apple Jacks when I've already got Fruit Loops.
You were basically going to do what I just did.
I'm going to go with Crunch Berries. Okay. I've gone through massive phases of Crunch Berries.
Despite the
cuts on your
roof of your mouth.
That's why all that milk. I never really have that problem.
All that milk,
because I have a good amount of milk. It always gets a little soft.
Yeah.
To prevent something like that. So, plus there's Neosporin on standby.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is my number 3.
Oh my God, that's my number 3. Okay, you're right. Hey, I'm with you.
Damn it, I wasn't ready.
You don't have any fruity cereals.
I don't really do that. They all kind of taste the same to me. The fruity cereals.
I mean, okay.
I'm going to throw in. Ah, man, I need to.
Okay, let me recap though. I have Fruit Loops, I have Cocoa Pebbles, and I have Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Okay, I might have to go with the classic.
Okay.
I feel like I'm forgetting. Like we've talked about a lot already, but I feel like I'm forgetting a
Yeah, I'm
huge
trying to
one.
scan
me too.
the aisle right now as I'm thinking.
We talked about like frosted flakes, something like that. We talked about Raisin Bran. Okay, I'm gonna have to go OG here.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna go with Cheerios.
Okay, fair enough.
And I'm going to have an asterisk beside it and let it represent the greatness that is Honey Nut and Frosted, because I think those are also great additions to the Cheerio family. There's some other ones like the multigrain and all that bullshit.
It's good. The banana nut multigrain Cheerios.
I'll let you eat those, but I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, my 4. It's tough, and I think I'm gonna pick one, and people are probably gonna be like, "What the fuck?" But this cereal, not only does it have a very unique look, it's been around forever, and it has a very, very unique taste. And that's
two things we haven't mentioned yet.
Okay.
Are shredded wheat and Chex. Are you going there?
No, for neither of them. What are you? How old are you? 370.
Chex are great.
Chex can be very good. I'm gonna go with. Are they called Sugar Smacks?
Just Smacks.
Smacks. They're okay. An iconic cereal.
I think Smacks might be my least favorite out of every single one we've ever mentioned.
Of those 4, it's my least favorite, but I can picture how it, or I can remember how it tastes right now. And anytime I smell or taste anything that's remotely like it, I immediately know this tastes like Smacks.
What about Golden Grams?
Golden Grams are very underrated, but they get old a little fast. Have you ever gone on
like the phases that I have with Crunch Berries? I can never do that with the Golden Grams.
I was about to say, they have a weird aftertaste. Have you ever, do you remember French Toast Crunch?
Yeah, it was in a red box. Yeah.
It was in a red box. Also, a big shout out to, I think I said it, but the Banana Nut Cheerios. Very, very good.
I don't know if I've had banana nut.
Also, Honey Bunches of Oats with the dried strawberries. When you put the milk on it, it makes them
it makes
a little wet.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Of course it is.
Jay.
All right. Well, that's enough for we just gave you a preview of Sight and Sound Cereal, our weekly cereal podcast, which would be really fun to do.
Oh my God, yes.
Where we reviewed cereal. Can we start a second channel? That would be fucking great.
The other thing I want to talk about real quick.
Also, don't eat cereal. I don't eat it anymore. I've probably not eaten cereal in about
then you
2
are
or 3 years.
You are not qualified to.
I'm qualified for it. I'm just
cereal.
health conscious. I don't remember what it's from. Some comedian might have said this or a show, but cereal is essentially milk covered candy.
Yeah,
candy covered.
I love how you just quickly interjected. Oh, I'm qualified. I'm qualified to talk about cereal.
I mean, I had a childhood.
No, I just thought it was a funny statement. Oh, I'm qualified. The other thing I want to talk about before we do get into Star Wars is The Leftovers. Because not only am I having a ton of fun rewatching it, I'm enjoying getting messages from our listeners that have caught on to the show because of us. So those are a lot of fun. And I just realized
that you started a side group chat.
I did not start that.
You didn't?
So look again. And also, what a terrible time to bring that up on a podcast. But no, The Leftovers. I've been enjoying people talking to me about it. And I'm about to finish season 2 to prepare for our Leftovers recaps, and I use the word recap sort of like I use the word screamo. I don't really care for the word and it doesn't exactly describe what I'm talking about, but it's a general broad word that you guys will understand. Jay and I, much like we did with Legion, are going to be doing leftovers recaps weekly. But instead of having a separate podcast, it's going to be right here on Sight and Sound, and you could label it as one of our standalone TV episodes. We're going to be doing that because not only are we massive fans and it's the last season for the show, but it's because we're still a part and partnering with the TV Showtime app. So not only will those episodes show up in our feed, but they're going to pop up in every page or episode page on the app. So make sure that you're watching the leftovers with us. Make sure that you're downloading the TV Showtime app because you can get involved in the discussion that all of your fellow TV viewers are having about that show. And it's just an added bonus that our show will be there too. But anyway, yeah, that's something I'm thrilled about. I mean, this episode of Weekly will be out on Monday, so we'll probably actually already have the season 3 premiere episode up by the time you're listening to this, except for you definitely for you Schmobilians. But anyway, that's just something I'm really stoked about, and I know you are too.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever owned a plant before, but but we do these like you don't like the word recap. Not only do I not like the word recap, I don't even like recaps. If you've never paid attention to anything that we've done where we've talked about TV shows, I like after show. We're kind of after show like
gurus,
all-stars at this point. I mean, we've been doing this shit for a long time, so fuck it, all the haters. I don't know. I'm sure somebody's out there. I don't know. This is weird. So, are
you qualified for this?
I don't like the word recap either, and I don't like podcasts where they just take you scene by scene by scene of everything that I just watched. I just want to know what to think about it. I want to have an additional individual to talk about the show with.
I still feel like we can call ourselves the Leftovers Recap Show, but we just don't do a play-by-play. Like, we can still call it a Leftovers Recap, and people will know that we're talking about Season 3, Episode 1 recap, and it's going to be us talking about the episode they just watched, but we're just doing it in a different way. I mean, the term recap, you don't like it, but I still don't think it's a problem to label it because other people still understand.
Well, you're the one that said you didn't like it.
Okay, we don't like it. How about that?
That's
we
fair.
don't like to use it, but it's still, I still don't.
Why can't
care
it be
to
an
use it.
after show? Why can't we call it an after show?
Because people title their actual shows Leftovers After Show. So that is a title of a podcast. Whereas if we call it a Leftovers Recap, that is a type.
I'm just saying that's
video.
the genre of what it is.
I mean, it's the same. I mean, there's not a difference in an after show and a recap. You just prefer one term over the other because of how you actually perform the podcast. So regardless.
So how is this?
Regardless, we're going to give you a great Leftovers recap show.
How is this all tied in? Well, of course, The Leftovers is show ran by Damon Lindelof, who has ties with Bad Robot. Bad Robot launched.
The much faster connection is that Justin Theroux is going to be in Last Jedi. You could have gotten there a lot quicker.
That's true, and I should have known that because right before we went on air, Christian Harloff was texting me, asking me for like a run. Who is Justin Theroux? Tell me everything you know about him. He did the same thing when Donald Glover was announced to be in Han Solo.
I don't know if I have to do this, but again, this is all about Star Wars Celebration. So if you didn't know what Star Wars Celebration is, it's a con, and I almost called it an annual con, but they're not going to have it next year. And
it wasn't annual for a while. Like, that was a more recent thing. It was every other year for a little bit, wasn't it? Or every few years.
Are you confusing that with D23 that's every other year?
No, I think there was one.
Was it like that?
I thought I heard on Jedi Council them talk about there was an instance where a year was skipped.
I don't know. Well, regardless, I'm not going to call it that anyway, but Star Wars Celebration is the huge con that's going on, or that happened this weekend, depending on when you're listening, to this show. And that's where all of this Star Wars news drops. I know most of our listeners already have that context, but some people might not. And one thing that we kind of talked about the other day when we were reacting to Thursday's show, which was that this bubble of ours, this movie fandom, this movie coverage bubble that we're in, is a lot smaller than we originally thought. Because you had a hilarious interaction with one of your coworkers.
No, not just one of my coworkers. I mean, my coworker who I don't know a lot about this individual. That's one thing that bothers me. I don't like it when I work with people and I spend so much time with people and I don't know anything about them. And in fairness, they might not know anything about me, but they just haven't asked. The one thing I do know about this person is that he claims to be a massive Star Wars fan. Like, we did this one exercise one time where we had to go around the room and say something about ourselves that people didn't know. And that was one of the things that he said, even though I already knew it. And so, yeah, naturally, when Celebration was coming up, I asked him, I said, "Hey, man, are you excited about Celebration, Star Wars Celebration?" And he was pretty much didn't know what I was talking about. I also asked him about the Last Jedi trailer. He didn't know that was coming out. He had heard it was coming out soon.
Oh, the trailer.
The trailer.
He knew the movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I asked him about Star Wars Rebels. He didn't even know what that was.
He didn't know what Rebels was?
He didn't know what Rebels was.
Wow.
He pretty
fucking Disney XD.
He was pretty much, he was really into the games, Battlefront, obviously.
Sure.
A big gamer, and I guess he collects some memorabilia and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it. But you were talking about people not knowing about it, but he wasn't the only one. There were a lot of people, and I actually said this in my video that I did talking about theories after the trailer, and we'll talk about it more here, I'm sure. But I had said that I wouldn't call myself a big Star Wars fan but I like Star Wars a lot. I really do. And I think most people out there think they're big Star Wars fans. Big Star Wars fans are the people that know this stuff, that follow, that know celebrations going on, that want to be there. They're pissed because they're not going to be there, and they follow along with all this stuff. If you claim to be a big Star Wars fan and you're not doing all the extra stuff that this franchise not requires you to do, but you can participate in my opinion, I think you're just a casual fan. This was the first time that I've experienced this. I mean, I remember when it was on last year, and I was sort of getting news from you, but it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun to experience it for my first time, and I'll give you my play-by-play experience and reaction as we go through it.
So I consider myself a Game of Thrones fan, but I don't give a shit about ever reading the books.
Exactly.
So there are levels. I mean, someone who absorbs every bit of Star Wars, whether it be the books, comics, video games, movies, TV, they can consider themselves a diehard fan because they're doing all of that, and they're absolutely right. But someone who gets just as excited about every single movie and sees it 3 times in theaters, that's still a diehard Star Wars fan.
Absolutely.
Because they love it.
There's levels to it, because I would consider you a big Star Wars fan, but there's a big difference between you and somebody like a Christian Harloff or a Ken Knapsack or but like of all my friends that I know, you're probably the biggest Star Wars fan, in my opinion.
Oh, that's really sweet of you.
Yeah.
I think that we have a great quality about us, which is we are reasonable Star Wars fans.
100%.
Like, we totally buy into the criticism. I can't remember who said it. It was somebody on Screen Junkies. It might have been Nick Mundy who took a shot at Star Wars and was like, "Oh, you mean that franchise that only has 2 good movies?"
Yeah.
And I accept that. Like,
I understand
Star Wars, I love Star Wars and I get excited about it, but they are still just movies like anything else. And I can be, and I'm not just talking about being the type of fan that criticizes or hates the prequels. I'm talking about on a different level. I'm talking about the fact that it's okay to like Rogue One less and less because you realize that it does things that you don't like, and it's okay to actually have problems with things that happen in the original trilogy. Like, people act like those films can't be touched, but every single year in cinema, a movie comes out that is better than all 3 of those movies. So it's just about being a reasonable fan. You can love it unconditionally. It can be like your children. Despite its flaws, you can still love it unconditionally because it takes you to this place that no other medium can. So I accept that. I feel like I'm a much more reasonable fan, but I still love it, and I still get it. And we'll talk about it probably when we get to the Last Jedi trailer. We'll talk more about this. But
it's interesting because one of our hottest takes. I remember posing this question to you, and I was actually fascinated with your response. I was surprised that your response to this was what it was, but I once posed the question to you that is it not a fact? Can it be stated that the Harry Potter film franchise is a more successful franchise in terms of quality than Star Wars? And in my opinion, I think 100%. I think there's only one of those movies that's good, not great. I'm sorry, two of those movies that are good, not great. I don't think any of those movies are bad. Fantastic Beasts is not good at all. Fantastic Beasts is like...
Fantastic Beasts sucks.
Fantastic Beasts is the first not good Harry Potter movie, in my opinion. But, I mean, the rest of them are...
They made 8 great movies.
Great. Yeah. I mean, and that's sort of my take on most media. There you have great, good, not great, good.
Harry Potter is arguably the highest quality film franchise to ever exist.
I agree.
Easily.
I agree. And I agree with your sentiments too about the Star Wars franchise. Like I made this statement a couple weeks ago on Weekly about revisiting and updating your movie opinions. And that's something that I've done recently with Star Wars after Rogue One came out. And for instance, A New Hope was a better movie for me after seeing Rogue One.
I love how we're already turning off Star Wars fans.
No, look, it's so important to be objective.
You know what?
It is, and I have this same reaction that you're talking about with some Star Wars fans where like everything that comes out is infallible. Do you know what in pop culture I have that about?
I probably do.
I'll give you a hint.
What you're setting me up for.
I'll give you a hint. It's music related. What musician do you think that falls under?
Oh, Drake?
No, absolutely not. I didn't care for views at all.
I thought that's what you were saying.
No.
You love them unconditionally, even though there's missteps.
No,
or you're able to call out when you don't like.
I have trouble being objective, and that's Kanye West.
Oh,
almost everything that he does, like even when he does something super shitty, I still find myself like defending him no matter what. And after a while, I have to look back and I'll be like, okay, yeah, that was a little rough.
I'm still developing this take, but I just came up with it the other day. I think that Star Wars has more in common with the Fast and Furious franchise than people realize.
You're just talking about pure numbers.
But based on numbers and like the amount of good films in that.
Oh, okay.
Because they have the same amount of movies, but there's like only... Okay, some will argue that like far more Star Wars movies stand out than Fast and the Furious, but if to a casual fan, like I walked into at work, walked into the break room, and I openly brought up the Last Jedi trailer, and 2 people just shouted, "I didn't like Rogue One," and I'm like, "Wow!" And these were like casual movie fans, and I thought would just be like, "Oh, it was pretty good." No, they were like, "I didn't like it."
Yeah.
So I was kind of baffled by that actually, but
well, there's a bunch of categories too of like not there are objective fans that will like things and not like things from a critical point of view, and that's great. There are people who will just love things no matter what, and then you have fans that will not like something for the most ridiculous reasons, and that is another thing. That's across a lot of things that have a wide base of fandom. But like, there is a big wave of people that don't care for The Force Awakens, and that is nonsense. In no version of a plausible reality is The Force Awakens. Can it be considered a bad movie? It's just not possible. A bad movie is The Room. That movie, The Room. A bad movie is like the Point Break remake or something like that. The Force Awakens has nothing in common with those things. Are there things about it that could be improved on? Absolutely. But it's not a fucking bad movie. So if you don't like The Force Awakens and you think it's a bad movie, just stop with everything for a while and try a little bit harder. Come at me, bro. The Force Awakens is great. It's not great. It's a really, really, really good movie, and it's so fun.
No, The Force Awakens is great.
Oh, I love it.
I
fucking love that movie.
I will say, here's okay. You just kind of destroyed everything that I set up as far as being reasonable. So let me bring you down. One criticism that I have with The Force Awakens.
I have criticisms too. Go ahead.
The settings are uninspired.
Agreed, 100%.
That like
we did. Was I on the review with you of that in Film Beef?
No.
I don't think I was.
No.
The
settings of those movies are uninspired. I mean, Starkiller Base is pretty cool. But other than that, I mean, Jakku, I mean, you saw like one hut in a small village.
Yeah.
And people are already making cracks about it just being Tatooine again. And okay, and then you had Maz castle in the middle of a forest, and it's like, okay, compare that to a Forest of Endor or something. It's not.
Yeah, they're just
Rogue One settings. That's the one thing Rogue One did better than The Force Awakens was
establishing the settings.
Just the settings and the locales were a lot better than The Force Awakens.
My biggest criticism with The Force Awakens was that the movie itself. It was a fun adventure to go on, but the story feels incredibly incomplete. Like it seems like there's bits and pieces missing. Like we really don't know anything about anyone in this. I mean, yeah, you can read books and you can read comics and novels and whatever to get a little bit more backstory, but we don't know anything about any of these new main characters.
Right.
We don't know anything about Finn. Don't know anything about Rey. Don't know anything about Poe. I mean, that was a huge thing for me. And because the movie feels episodic, and it should to a certain extent, but the only actual film of the Star Wars franchise that I can think of that seems episodic is Empire Strikes Back, because it leaves you on a cliffhanger. The other movies seem to at least put a bookend
and because
on
the
things.
characters don't really interact together that much.
Yeah. But guess what? It's still really good. Like
this is a really weird conversation to have. I thought we were going to spend the entire time talking about Celebration.
This is the Sight and Sound Weekly about Star Wars. We can talk anything we want about Star Wars.
Oh, you're right.
Are we going to have breaks built in? At some point?
Definitely.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
We'll do probably Thursday, Friday, and then a break, and then Saturday, and then a break, and then Sunday, probably.
All right.
I didn't want to rush you. Are you ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
We're ready, though. Okay, so let's start with everything that happened on Thursday. And for me, that was only like one thing, just because there were some other panels. There were 4 main panels that are streamed on the live stream, but only caught one.
What else takes place at Celebration besides these panels?
A ton of stuff. Signings, like live podcasts.
Do they have booths of things where you can purchase
definitely
whatever memorabilia and stuff
Absolutely.
like that?
Yeah, I mean it's just like any other convention. There's the booths outside, but
Papa J likes to shop.
Yeah, so. There are the booths. There's like cosplay and stuff. The book signings. Like Star Wars podcasts go on in certain rooms. Like if you have your own kind of Star Wars thing on your own, then you have those kind of setups, and it's small. You wouldn't call them. I guess you would call them exhibits.
Jedi Council
had one. Schmodown had one. Yeah, but there's all kinds of those. And yeah, I mean they do all kinds of stuff. Whether it be like
it's cool that they let them do that. That's really fucking cool.
Oh yeah. It's just like any other convention, just on a large scale. And But anyway, so all that's going on. If you go to StarWars.com and look at the schedule for Star Wars Celebration, it is obnoxious. It makes your head hurt.
Extensive.
Yeah, it's almost like it was like Warp Tour schedule. Like, you know how we talked about Warp Tour and how there's like every band you want to see might be happening at the same time? It's like that on crack.
Yeah, it was crazy when I looked at it.
There's
and actually
so much going on all the time at Celebration.
It was crazy when I got to look at it and I saw that that Childish Gambino was going to be closing out Saturday night. That was pretty cool. That yeah. How awesome would that be? Wait. Does Childish Gambino have a place here? Would anybody care? I mean, obviously people would care that he's there, but can I get an over under like 70% that most people would even be familiar with his music there? You don't want to comment. You're afraid to speculate on what they know about Gambino.
Let's talk about Thursday and the 40 years of Star Wars panel. Now, this
overrated.
This is already pretty cool that we've arrived. I mean, not only are we talking about Star Wars Celebration, but we're talking about the 40th anniversary, and it's pretty special that like maybe not 5 years ago because that's when Disney bought Lucasfilm. But if you ask somebody 6 or 7 years ago, if they thought that we would have a Star Wars movie coming out the year of the 40th anniversary, not a lot of people would have believed it. So this was a pretty special celebration for fans and for Lucasfilm as well, and everyone involved over there. So that's pretty great. I mean, 40-year panel, it doesn't get much better than that because you got a great mix of the old and new at this panel. And I think the talk of the town was the main talk of the town. But no. Okay, let me erase that. There were two things that you have to think about going into this. Carrie Fisher's absence.
The passing of Carrie Fisher, absolutely.
Which is not only felt through this panel, but it's clearly felt throughout all of Celebration. I mean, every panel that I've seen has somewhat referenced Carrie's memory and her personality and her stamp on this franchise. I mean, I don't think you go a day without it.
As they should. Yeah, absolutely. Pivotal point.
So that's a through line in this entire celebration. And definitely in this panel where so many of her peers and colleagues that knew her for so long were a part of it and missed her very much.
And people that were inspired by her from the new cast.
And even her daughter, which that's unbelievable that not only was her daughter a part of the celebration, but it's 2 years ago or 3 years ago when they were filming The Force Awakens, they brought her daughter in to be a part of this franchise. So it's really, really special that she was already a part of it. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be cool. It'd be cool if they could bring her in and like throw in The Last Jedi, which I believe she is in The Last Jedi. But it's cool that they already did that. You know what I mean? So anyway, Carrie Fisher's absence was a huge blow, and it made Celebration a lot different than it would have been with her. Absolutely. The second big thing about the 40-year panel was whether or not George Lucas was going to be present. And the reason why that's significant, a lot of you diehard fans listening already kind of know this, but again, to the more casual people, George Lucas signed over Lucasfilm to Disney in 2012. George Lucas doesn't have any part in anything at all unless they ask him to be involved, which they don't, just to be honest. So having him kind of come back in, it's like visiting your divorcee.
Right.
After some time away, and it probably was hard for him.
And watching them live a very prosperous life.
Yeah, it's like
very celebrated life, especially coming off of something when, I mean, his last major involvement with it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't viewed very positive at all. So I'm sure it's tough. I'm sure it is tough for him.
Yeah, and we kind of saw hints of that. Of course, we did get him, and he was first we got Kathleen Kennedy, who I'm a massive fan of, even before Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy, I don't know if you know this, but did you know that she started out as Spielberg's assistant?
Yes.
Okay, and so she was kind of crucial in all of Spielberg's like Amblin productions. So she was already one of Hollywood's greatest producers. Her and her husband Frank Marshall. When you put their filmographies together, they are two of the most impressive individuals to walk the earth.
I really like Disney, and Kathleen Kennedy is a lot different, but I like what Disney does by sort of putting such strong-minded individuals, organized individuals in these positions like this. Like you look at a Kevin Feige type of individual, just people who know
what the hell they're doing,
the path that everything needs to be on.
So she came out, and I love listening to Kathleen Kennedy. She just gets it, and I feel like you asked me this before off air if I was ever worried that there might be a misstep, and it's like no. Like asking me if I think Kathleen Kennedy's gonna really mess up Star Wars is like asking me if I think Kevin Feige is gonna mess up Marvel or anything like. It's just I just can't fathom it.
Well, there's bound to be missteps at some point.
And that goes against me being reasonable, but it's hard to imagine is what I'm saying. I mean, it can happen, but it's hard to imagine. So she came out and introduced George, and that was pretty big. And I thought it was kind of funny because not only was he kind of a grumpy? I mean, could you tell he was kind of a grumpy old man?
Yeah, it was. You know what? I enjoyed it. His approach to coming out was sort of my approach to podcasts. Just fucking say whatever you want.
Yeah. He was the reasonable Star Wars fan in that seat.
It made me feel comfortable, but also a little like oh, what's about to happen?
There's nothing like when Mark Hamill does this kind of stuff, or like Warwick Davis hosting the thing. They're hyped, you know. There's a hype man when the cameras aren't rolling. George Lucas doesn't play into that at all.
Could you be that guy? Could you be that guy in the crowd? Let's go.
No, but Goodman could.
Nobody knows who that is.
I just thought it was funny that Lucas plays no part in that, and he's just George Lucas.
Right.
And I thought it was funny that, you know, with so many nostalgic stories that he had. I mean, he was throwing so much shade at 20th Century Fox for like owning his life for a period of time and stuff.
And doubting him on like American Graffiti and stuff.
Yeah. I just got all that was pretty funny, but also very George Lucas, because a lot of the stuff that they have talked about, I've heard those stories a million times, whether it be on like Blu-ray features that I've seen and things like that. I've heard a lot of that story. So George Lucas was very much George Lucas during that panel.
Before you go on any further, I want to also say that because this was my first time watching something like this was a panel that I thought was going to be interesting to watch and fun to kind of watch, to see all of the stuff, Star Wars through the years, so to speak, and paying homage, especially to some of the more original people involved. But I didn't really care that much. I was looking forward to the Last Jedi stuff, new announcements, all of that, things that I haven't seen and didn't know about coming up. And things like this, I can normally just take it in, and I'm not much of like one for like getting emotional about things. Like I'm just not like that type of person. Like I usually try to find humor in certain situations and all of that. But dude, I gotta be honest with you. I was kind of caught up in this whole thing. Like when I was watching it, I don't know, something about things like this. I mean, I was getting choked up, not even at stuff like the Carrie Fisher stuff or anything like that, but just knowing that everybody there, when they would bring out people like, and now we're going to go to, like I just hear that reaction, the crowd reaction, like a sporting event or something, those types of situations, like knowing that all of this means so much to those people, absolutely gets me, man. I mean, it gets me in the feels. I was getting choked up, getting a little teary-eyed at my desk at work. And dude, I was wrapped up in this thing.
So you texted me that. I knew about how emotional you were, and I was so happy that you said that to me, because that's how I sort of always get around this type of stuff. Another instance of this was when I was watching a lot of like the post Lost finale stuff,
Yeah.
like when those Blu-ray features came out and they had like these documentaries about what it was like to be together. Those people were a family for 6 years, and you hear those kinds of stories and what it meant to people around the world to watch that show. You get choked up.
I do it with sporting events too. Like people don't know that I'm a huge soccer fan. Matt, like that's the sport where, you know, you're with Kentucky basketball. You're like, oh, fuck that.
Right.
I mean, I'm like that with soccer. And last year, a team won that was not supposed to win. I mean, it was a complete Cinderella story. And even though it wasn't my team, like just seeing how much it meant to, I mean, they were like a 500 to 1 underdog or something like that to win this whole thing. And just to see how much it meant to people, it's amazing especially for somebody with Star Wars. Like I said, casual fan here. It's great.
Another similar moment for in this panel was when Hayden Christensen came out.
Very interesting.
Because I am not the biggest fan of the prequels. They're kind of hard. I get in moods where I want to watch particular things about them, and I appreciate particular things about them, but overall, they're just hard to watch as movies. That's not a unique take, of course. But the thing that bothers me, though, is that there are actors, you know, they're human beings behind these roles, and I didn't even really consider what it might be like to be Hayden Christensen and not go to Celebration. Year after year after year, and then finally you get this moment and there's a standing ovation for him.
Yeah.
And his reception was actually one of the biggest when he walked out with Ian McDermott, who played Palpatine. Those two came out and they represented the prequels in this 40-year panel. But I kind of got choked up a little bit because this is probably a person that at one time in his life, it was the biggest thing in the world to him to appear in a Star Wars movie, let alone play the title character. And then when those movies aren't well received and there's backlash, fan backlash, we are guilty of taking that from him.
Oh, 100%.
And he is no longer able to feel accepted to something that he felt so close to at one point. So the fact that they were able to give him such a warm welcome when he came out, and I feel like he was genuinely happy. I mean, I think there were pictures of him riding, I think, like Space Mountain. Like he was at, they have Galactic Nights, which is this thing going on at Disney World on Friday night. And they had these big events at Disney World afterwards. And like he was riding rides and there's like pictures of him being happy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool that was such a positive experience for him. So something like that. And what's weird is that in some ways I'm a little more connected to him than I am Mark Hamill, only because I was raised on those movies.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good take. But I mean, you have to think too. I think it puts into perspective a lot of what we do, being people that commentate about movies and the movie community in general. When it's one thing to watch movies and be a fan of movies. It's another thing to go the next level and talk about them, or even listen to people that talk about them and participate in those conversations that become so acidic, really acidic conversations. And when it's magnified on the level of Star Wars, I mean, since then, Star Wars is a type of franchise that launches careers.
Daisy Ridley.
And I mean, makes them flourish. And for him, it seems to have been the opposite. I mean, every time his name came up between now and then, it was always who could get the first joke in. And we do forget that these are human beings, and this is more of just an observation, but we also forget the magnification of that. Yeah. That it's not just you making that joke. It's
everybody
that has ever watched a Star Wars movie essentially making that same joke. And I think for him,
or everyone who runs a movie channel on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Except maybe Chris Harwell.
And all of their fans and everything else. So I do think that it's great, not just for Star Wars, not just for Hayden Christensen. I think for people in general to see that time span, for him to have closure and know that, you know what, it's okay. It's okay that was a part of my life and I've been there and done that. But like, I mean, his voice was trembling, which could have been nerves. It could have been anything. He probably didn't know what it was going to be like.
But I would hope that he was choked up because of how good he felt.
At one point, I think, to me, it came across more of relief and just sheer joy that sort of albatross is now off of his neck.
Is that a bird?
Yeah.
Albatross?
Yeah. You've never heard you never heard that phrase before? Albatross around your
sorry,
neck?
I was just picturing a massive bird on top of Hayden Christensen.
Okay. Well, yeah, anyways, so to get the monkey off of his back, the weight off of his shoulders, so to speak, and be able to know that everything is fine now. And that's beautiful. It's great.
Sure.
It's an amazing thing. So to see him smiling and having fun on Space Mountain, it's cool.
And the other thing too, and I've said this a lot on other shows that I've done, but I think it's wrong of Disney to ignore the prequels. I say embrace it and just do more things in that era, but better. I mean, just don't be afraid to venture in that territory again, but you've still got the quality control. I mean, just go for it.
Yeah.
And I've always supported, and now there are rumors circulating more than ever that Hayden Christensen might play a role in Episode 8 or any future movie. Good. I mean, I would be totally down for that. If anything, that kind of makes the prequels better.
Yeah.
Because there's still like you don't feel like you're just kind of shoving it away in a closet and it's something that doesn't exist. I feel like if you get a great Hayden Christensen performance, and there's not a whole lot you can do because, it's got to be a Force ghost or something like that in a future movie. Or you could do something ridiculous like clone him. But it just kind of makes it better. And like you said, it just makes it feel more all right. And I feel like it gives you a better experience when you go back to that stuff. So I'm glad that Lucasfilm isn't afraid to do this. Hopefully it starts another conversation.
One thing that I've picked up on through this entire weekend is, and maybe this is apparent in other celebrations, but it seemed like, and I'm not saying it's because of this, but because of the loss of Carrie Fisher, a family member, that there was a lot to do with embracing the greater Star Wars family.
Sure.
Everybody, even down to what's that guy's name that played the one dude who didn't even like Star Wars?
The guy who played Wedge Antilles?
Yes.
I can't think of his name right now.
That guy being, invited and...
but he pretty much hates Star Wars.
But all of that, basically to include like Warwick Davis, like Hayden Christensen, all of these people to say, look, you guys are a part of something. Who's to say that maybe at some point Hayden Christensen doesn't come back from now on to know that he's welcome and have some sort of job, like a hosting gig of some sort of panel, maybe not like a major panel, but I'm sure fans would love that.
And one great thing, and this is kind of aside from the social commentary aspect of it, but what I really enjoyed hearing about was him and his lightsaber training with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Talked about how they would perform entire fights, not just do takes of cuts, but they would, every time they filmed, they did the entire sequence. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought that was, again, going back to the fact that at one time this was his life and we kind of took it from him. Do you think that this conversation might even be outdated by the time this podcast comes out, but do you think there was a reason Ewan McGregor wasn't there, or do you think it was legit?
If I honestly had to guess, I would say I don't think we're getting an Obi-Wan movie anytime soon. I don't think it's on the slate. I think eventually, at some point, we will probably get one. I do think he probably is going to be involved in The Last Jedi.
Would it be like a Force ghost or a voice again?
Yeah, for those that don't know, there's an entire comic book storyline where Luke is essentially reading the journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi that were left on Tatooine. That's correct? Yeah. Well, we can talk about.
I don't think it's an entire run. I think it's like 1 or 2 specific issues.
Yeah, and we can talk about it more when we talk about the trailer. But there was a shot of a bookshelf and some old manuscripts. Some people are theorizing, is that potentially those journals? Yeah, I mean, look, I can totally foresee him being in this movie. Seeing,
yeah, that's why I smiled when
I could foresee him being in this movie for sure. I think they're kind of playing their cards a little closer to their chest.
You think a little bit.
Yeah, I do.
Of course they are.
I do. If there's one thing I've learned about J.J. Abrams in the past, he likes to set a tone.
He's a liar.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that putting Ewan McGregor there would put a lot of pressure on him to keep secrets, and I think it might potentially. Look, I think a lot of people are walking away a little bit disappointed that he wasn't there. But how great is it going to be if he plays?
Is there tomorrow?
There tomorrow, or maybe he plays a bigger role in the movie than we think he's going to. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's also probably doing Trainspotting 2 press. I don't know.
Right. Another cool thing about the prequel stuff, and we'll move on, is we got a great clip of Liam Neeson and Samuel, which I thought was pretty funny, and I loved that Liam took a shot at Jar Jar right in front of George. That was pretty great. But anyway.
Get out of here, Liam. You're drunk. You Irish fuck.
In addition to the warm welcome Hayden got, Harrison Ford. This was the first time he had ever attended.
For me, that was when I probably got the most choked up.
I'm actually really surprised that was the funniest the panel ever got, was when he was on stage. Mark Hamill comes out. He's pretty funny. Warwick Davis opened up more when Harrison came out because he was making fun of him landing planes and shit. Like, it just, the vibe completely changed.
I thought there was no way in hell he wasn't going to be here.
Sure.
There was no chance in hell.
But it was just fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, to see him finally come out there, I mean, it's so special. I mean, when I think about Star Wars, Han Solo is one of the first people I think about. What he brought to those movies, carrying so much humor on his own shoulders, just that character. I mean, would there even be a Finn if there wasn't a Han Solo? I mean, that swagger, that bravado that character brings, and to see him out there like that and just so happy too, because he could have come out there and been nonchalant or phoned it in or whatever, but he was a part of the fun. I mean, even addressing how special the fans were, that they started, they were his career essentially. Is so, it's great. I mean, I have a massive man crush on Harrison Ford.
Do you really?
Do you not know this? That
I have no idea.
I have pictures saved on my phone of young Harrison Ford to look at on the reg, just to remind remind me of how stylish I need to be.
He's your Sam Witwer of the original trilogy.
No, I mean, I like Sam Witwer in general, obviously, but no.
Wait a minute. You like Sam Witwer because you were freaking out about him earlier.
I'm going to save my opinions on Sam Witwer for a video that we may or may not be recording soon. But look, I love Harrison Ford. I think he's great. Look, he's an old man. He can be a little bit jaded towards things if he wants to be. He's just playing into his stereotype.
Also, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, and Billy D. Williams came out, and that was a lot of fun because that's when you kind of had the good old days vibe where they were just talking about how much fun they had back in the day with each other, and that was also pretty cool. And of course, overall, the panel ends. They give one of their tributes to Carrie, and that was pretty emotional. I love seeing all those behind the scenes footage of her and hearing her daughter speak. I mean, that was it's hard for me to talk about it just because it spoke for itself and it said it all that needed to be said about it. But it was very, very well done, very touching. And I know a lot of people that were actually at Celebration, and they were talking about how there wasn't a dry eye in the room. That it kind of people lost control at that part. So I thought that was very classy and very well done. And then to top it all off, to end it, was pulling back the curtain and getting Jaye Williams playing several songs, starting with Leia's theme, and then some of the classic stuff as well, which that must have been really awesome to actually be there and get that surprise. But yeah, I thought it was a very well done panel, and I'm glad that you got so much out of it.
Yeah, really cool, really special. I do want to give a shout out to Warwick Davis. I thought he did an absolutely incredible job at hosting. I mean, I don't know if he was trying to maybe add something to his reel or his his list of things that he could potentially do. I want to fucking
he doesn't need work.
I know
he's killing it.
Well, hang on. So I want a Warwick Davis like late night talk show. I think that would be fucking great. And for anybody out there that has not seen it, including you, Ryan Snelling, do yourself a favor, go on HBO and watch his series that he did with Stephen Merchant and Ricky Gervais called Life's Too Short.
Okay.
It is so funny. Imagine the
it crude?
Imagine The Office on HBO, but imagine it as a mockumentary about Warwick Davis trying to get work, and all he does is talk about all the stuff that he used to do. Like, oh, here's where I was in Star Wars. Before I got this role as Ewok, I was actually this trash can. Like it's so
That's
fucking great, man. It's so good.
That he represents pretty much everything we've discussed.
Oh,
today.
absolutely.
The fact that he was a child and George Lucas changed his life by playing Wicket and growing. I mean, he is what he is. He's again one of those actors that rose to fame because of this. He ends up playing 3 characters per movie in a Harry Potter movie, and just all kinds of. It's awesome. How much Star Wars has done for these people. And,
just to close out my Life's Too Short pitch, at one point in the show, Val Kilmer plays a massive role in the show because he was in, was it Willow?
Yeah.
Was Val Kilmer in Willow?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
I don't know. He was in something with Val Kilmer. I can't remember. But he ends up coming into the show and being a massive villain in this show. It's great.
I didn't
never before seen of that show.
I didn't plan out our breaks very well.
But we need to because it's been an hour and a half.
I was going to say we've talked about cereal and leftovers, and let's take our first break now.
All right, we'll be right back. Hey everyone, Jaye Williams here from Sight and Sound with a brand new announcement for you. Just a little something to get you hyped. We are currently putting together our very first ever line of merchandise. That's right, in just a few short weeks, you will be able to get your very own shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more featuring Sight and Sound related graphics. We're pretty stoked, whether it's just wearing our logo or a design featuring a phrase you know and love from just being a dedicated listener to the show, we've got you covered. This merchandise isn't just something for you guys to look cool while wearing, but you're also supporting the show as every dollar you spend goes back into supporting the podcast and making it better in the future. That's pretty much all we've got. Make sure you're staying tuned on social media for when our merch line drops in the coming weeks. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SightSoundPod or on Facebook, facebook.com/SightSoundPod. Let's get back to the show.
Okay, so we're talking all things Star Wars here. We're about to get into The Last Jedi.
So more life.
During the break, we watched a video, Mark Hamill dropping a hot take on how The Force Awakens should have ended. Long story short, he thinks that the original heroes should have been reunited after Han. Well, I guess he wouldn't have fallen down the pit the way that Hamill illustrated it so beautifully, but it was Luke and Leia would have connected before Starkiller Base exploded, and then they would have come to Han's aid after being killed by or injured by Kylo Ren. He feels that it was a missed opportunity to bring the whole gang together. And yeah, you said that thought process kind of worried you moving forward?
It worries me just because I'm under the impression that Mark Hamill is privy to the knowledge of where the story is going. So I'm hoping that that the writers and the developers of this storyline have a reason for that not being the case. I mean, I'm sure there's other things going on, but hopefully him not being there is just
I don't think him saying that means that there's no course correction. I think that he's probably not the only person that thinks that.
It's not a major worry. I'm just saying.
I for one, I can kind of agree. I mean, I like what we got, but if you wanted to make it better, it would have been seeing all three together, because just the writing of killing Han Solo means you can't get all three together again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
So-
I talked about it in my theories video. And I'm sure,
did you?
And we'll sort of, and we'll cover this, I'm sure, because we're about to talk about The Last Jedi. But, look, I think that Disney is sort of closing a chapter here. I think I don't think everybody's going to die off or anything like that. Like, I don't think the big three are all going to die off. One of them is gone. But I think that they're focusing on developing this new story, these new characters, not trying to just latch on to nostalgia, which is admirable. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think putting all three of them together, and this is just my opinion, but I think putting all three of them together in a scene in that movie maybe takes away a little bit from all of this new stuff that's going on. That's just my opinion.
Well, we might get more context from this movie that we're getting in December. The Last Jedi panel.
I hope so, because I don't know what the hell's going on so far.
The Last Jedi panel was the headlining thing of probably of all of Celebration, at least for me, and that's what kicked off our Friday at Celebration. Rian Johnson is someone, I've said it before, I was more excited about his announcement as director than I was J.J. Abrams, and I can write you a book at how J.J. Abrams has affected my life. It was just based on the fact that even though at the time I didn't think J.J. was going to do it because he was involved in Star Trek, I just couldn't imagine him doing both. But obviously, that's kind of ignorant now. But it still made sense that they would bring in someone like J.J. Abrams
100%.
to do Force Awakens. Rian Johnson, that made a statement. He is such an up-and-comer. He's such a
An established up-and-comer.
He's a prolific film writer, director, and it was just a huge statement for me that this is the direction we're going. We're going to experiment. We're going to get a little bit dark. We're going to show you something that you've never seen before, because when you look at Rian Johnson's filmography, you do not think Star Wars, but you think of quality and
Creativity.
It was one thing thinking about what J.J. Abrams' Star Wars would look like. It's another thinking about what Rian Johnson's Star Wars looks like. So seeing him and hearing him talk at this panel, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat with everything that he said. Even the night before, I thought it was so cool that he spent so many hours hanging out with the fans that stayed overnight for Celebration. I mean, many hours talking to a huge queue of people. And I think I heard them say that he was there until 3 a.m, which means he barely got any sleep to prepare for this panel. But
It's like he's on Aftershmo or something. Got 3 hours of sleep after our podcast.
so I
It's
want
all for you fans.
I want to hear your side of this. What did you think of this panel?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is. I said it on another podcast the other day, but I don't like living in the past. I'm looking forward to the future. Seeing The Force Awakens really, really, really gave me the Star Wars bug. I mean, I am so invested in this story, and a lot of that from me personally, and I don't know how much you agree with this, so I'd love to get your take.
Well, I can tell you, Jay.
I feel like a lot of how we are experiencing Star Wars now, with so much mystery, being left so much in the dark, having to speculate so much. Like, I don't remember doing it that much in the prequel era, and of course it's a different type of movie because it's things that we already have more context of. Obviously, I wasn't alive when the original trilogy came out, but I feel like a lot of this is down to J.J. Abrams. I feel like the way he set the tone with this franchise, being the first person that they brought in to sort of set the bar. I'm sure they had many conversations with Kathleen Kennedy. He's a executive producer on this, or a producer.
Yeah, he's still producing the film.
Absolutely. So, look, a lot of this stuff.
They wrote episode 8 together. I mean, Ryan Johnson wrote it, but JJ was involved.
There is nobody better in media at getting people hyped in a viral way. There's no one better than J.J. Abrams. Everything that I see and am experiencing, this sort of fandom, directly links back to my excitement of Lost. It directly links back to my excitement and the hype built up around movies like Cloverfield. I mean, there aren't other properties like this that I get this speculative about. So I was so excited to see where this was going. Now, I was
going to say, bring it back to Ryan Johnson in the Last Jedi panel.
Well, I am.
Where did you go?
I'm talking about my excitement for this in general. Now, Ryan Johnson, where this comes into all of this, not only did I update my opinions on the Star Wars films recently, but I also went so far down the fan rabbit hole as to update my opinion of Ryan Johnson. In the last few months, I rewatched Looper. I've seen Brick before. I still haven't seen Brothers Bloom, but I also rewatched Breaking Bad, which he was involved in definitely 2 episodes, the Fly episode and Ozymandias. And it's so funny. We had a conversation before we did After Schmo the other night, and I was talking to you about just how different this movie is going to look, because Ryan Johnson, the way he shoots movies, the way he shoots anything, he has such a particular visual aesthetic for how he shoots things, like from the way that he will start the camera off laying on the ground almost and pick it up with the character itself, as opposed to just shooting that long shot of them getting up off the ground. Or I had told you about an overhead shot of people loading something into a truck in Breaking Bad and the camera panning across from, an aerial view. And I said, I can't wait to see stuff like that. That was one of the first things we even got to see in the trailer. I think Ryan Johnson is a very, very special director from a visual standpoint. I'm so excited to see what he does with this movie.
And I think he was still the highlight of all of it. Not because it wasn't fun to see Daisy Ridley come back and be excited. Not because it was same with John Boyega. I mean, those two just ooze charisma, and they're always entertaining. But it kept coming back to him because I think we saw him reacting to statements made about him more than we actually heard him speak. I mean, there was unanimous praise. Every single person made it a point, and more than your casual, like, oh, by the way, Ryan Johnson, like, it was more than that. They made it a point to talk about how well he directed, how well he wrote this movie. Kathleen Kennedy says that he is on his way to becoming one of the all-time great directors. Mark Hamill said he was his favorite director. I mean, it was everything that I had hoped to hear about this movie, and it didn't feel fabricated.
They were definitely hyping him up. Absolutely. And I think it's great too, because going into this movie, you want to have a lot of hope for it. No pun intended. You want to have an optimistic point of view. And if there was anybody out there that was maybe unsure, or not even skeptical is the right word, but they weren't familiar with Ryan Johnson, I think they left Star Wars Celebration or left watching it at home with so much confidence in what this guy can bring to the table, just because of how well they sold him.
It kind of, not to break it down a little bit, but it kind of makes me a little upset that I will never feel this high about Colin Trevorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everything that
there's no body of work to be like, man,
game changer.
I mean, Brick, Looper,
like
Breaking Bad.
Colin Trevorrow accidentally directed the third highest grossing movie of all time. You know what I mean? Like, it's not because of him. It's not. It's just not.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? I don't even really want to go too far down that road. But it's great. It's great that Ryan Johnson's had this opportunity. So much so that I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Like,
I hope you're going to say what I want to say right now.
Well, I want there to be a future with him in Star Wars outside of this movie. I mean, we're doing standalones and stuff like that. Who better to direct that Blade Runner style Star Wars movie that we all want, that more boots on the ground, grounded, gritty,
that Coruscant underground.
I mean,
thing.
if we're not going to get a Christopher Nolan, I think we can at least get his younger doppelganger. In my opinion, I think Ryan Johnson has the ability to be the next sort of Christopher Nolan, to tell those sort of stories.
Imagine a Ryan Johnson, like a Star Wars in the vein of Looper, like you're talking about. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he was able to stick around and like just work on this franchise, do different things.
Just some of his ideas, are fascinating.
Sure. And of course the fact that he wrote episode 9, which is also really great. What I was going to say is
not the biggest fan of his writing. I mean, I think he's a really good writer, but I don't think that's for me personally.
That's not what you're looking at.
Between directing and writing.
Well, hopefully this movie surprises you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, I was going to say, I hope something happens to where episode 8 is so special that he just directs episode 9. Because everyone, I mean, Colin Trevorrow wasn't even at Celebration this year. So it's like, I have heard almost nothing.
I was about to say.
It's the only stuff, and not that.
Man, J.J. Abrams, Ryan Johnson. Colin Trevorrow's doing the last one.
I mean, I was not happy when. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. Let's talk more about the panel though. So it was a lot of fun. Thinking about what's new, you know what I mean? Kelly Marie Tran is playing Rose, and Ryan Johnson said that she is the most prominent new character, which says a lot because this is a movie also starring Laura Dern and also starring Benicio del Toro and so many other people. Like Kylo Ren is still around, Snoke is still around.
Isn't what's his name in this movie? Bane? What's his name? I'm forgetting his name.
Bane?
Yeah, fucking
Tom Hardy?
Yeah, isn't he in this movie?
He's like a stormtrooper.
Yeah,
like
right.
Daniel Craig.
Exactly.
Why are you bringing that up?
I'm just saying, Tom Hardy, he's obviously going to be a villain in a future Star Wars movie. Right. We all know this.
But anyway, I thought that was pretty great. And I'm really looking forward to knowing more about her character. And based on that, though, because there's so much going on, that's why I feel so confident. I'm not the first person to come up with this, but I'm so confident it's going to have that Empire vibe where everyone is obviously just kind of split apart from each other and everyone's going to have their own adventure and then we'll tie together at the end. And I think this is the kind of movie that we're going to get. What else? Mark Hamill was also great on the panel. BB-8 came out. That was great. And
can I touch on one thing you said real quick?
Sure.
You were saying how it might have an Empire feel, and we talked about how The Force Awakens, or people have talked about how it has that New Hope feel. If there is one fuckbag out there that decides this one was too much like Empire is the greatest Star Wars movie of all time.
Fuck you. No, what's going to happen is that people are going to praise The Last Jedi for having an Empire vibe. I mean, they're already doing it. People already want it to have an Empire type impact. So it's funny that it's funny that they use that against The Force Awakens, but we'll praise it. It's funny.
You know how the schmoes have ball bags? Can we have fuck bags?
I thought we had dongs.
We do. We have dongs too.
We can't say the F word. We're going to lose our YouTube rights. You need to chill out on that.
Yeah. We've only been flagged twice. It's fine. And it was for copyright things.
We also had our channel abducted somehow, and we still haven't gotten to the bottom of that. But.
I have my theories. I'll keep them to myself.
Okay, anyway, BB-8. Oh, that was great. And Josh Gad I'm not a fan of Josh Gad. I was not happy that he was hosting. I didn't find any of his videos with Daisy Ridley funny.
Really?
But they're one of those things that it's out of spite.
Why are you so negative
Like
about it?
I think if anyone else did those videos, I would have liked it. So I'm fine with blaming myself.
I think it's funny how Josh Gad just like over the course of a handful for a while he was like what's the guy's name from Superbad? The
McClellan?
No, not Michael
Seth?
Cera. Not Michael Cera, but what's the other actor's name? I forget his name.
Jonah Hill.
Like overnight he became like the poor man's Jonah Hill, but now he's like one of the biggest actors in Hollywood in terms of some of the money he makes.
He's great at yelling for comedy. That's what Josh Gad is good for.
I thought he did great.
He did?
I thought
that's what I was going to get to. I thought he did a great job.
His personality, I mean, the way he conducted himself, sort of bringing everything together, and you know, as two fellow hosts here of a show, I think I have a little bit of an appreciation anytime somebody is doing something like this, having to facilitate conversations and ask questions, and interview people. And I do. I think he did a really, really good job.
And one of the most professional moments that I saw out of him was when the BB-8 bit didn't work, and he recovered immediately by calling it out and making fun of it and making a joke. And that's something that I learned from David Letterman.
Okay,
so I'll give him that credit. I think there's one thing that you can say that will sum up your thoughts on the Last Jedi poster, which is the fact that we both have it on our phones.
Yeah, I mean, from a graphic design perspective, I thought the Rogue One posters were trash. The Star Wars posters in general, iconic designs, iconic artwork. I mean, everything about them sets the trend of graphic design and whatnot moving forward. Not only is this poster great, it's very simple, it's very to the point, and
retro,
mysterious, and guess what it's got? It even fucking has a Rian Johnson feel to it. Something about this poster just has that sort of that grittiness. I have a really high resolution version of it on my computer, and just like some of the grain, the film grain going on in the textures of this, I mean, it's stuff like that reminds me of things with Rian Johnson. I mean, it's just his feel to it. I love it. I love it. I was designing a logo. I've been designing logos all weekend, and it sucks because this was such a good poster that it's embedded itself in my mind, and I couldn't get outside of being inspired by it, and it kind of made it difficult.
It is a great poster, and
it's not quite as good as all of the amazing artwork that I've done for Sight and Sound and for SK Plus. I'm just kidding. It's really good.
No, it is a great poster, and it reminds me of how. Well, I'll touch on that when we get into the trailer.
It's fascinating. I think there's more to take away from that poster.
But what I will say is that I thought it was funny when Ryan started to tease what they brought to show people. People started to cheer. Then he says the word poster, and there's an immediate groan. When that poster debuted, those groans went away entirely.
Absolutely,
everyone loved it. So I think that speaks for itself. What are you fidgeting around for?
A few people have talked about this poster. I think Christian did a little bit, but there's obviously some throwback to one of the original Star Wars: A New Hope posters with Luke holding up his lightsaber in the air, and Leia is sort of grabbing his leg, and the same symbol. It's a similar symbol we see in the trailer.
Definitely.
Luke and Kylo's face on either sides of the lightsaber, I think, is fascinating. I am very curious as to. Oops, I need to put my phone on mute. I'm very curious as to the lightsaber turning from blue to red. I think that's to me that speaks to me somehow. I don't know what it means.
Well, we'll get there. Let's go on into the trailer.
That's
now.
Fine.
Let's talk about the trailer. So, what'd you think? I thought that I wanted to speak first, and I decided that you're going to speak first.
Look, I think the trailer is a good trailer. It's a really good trailer. Of course, it gets me stoked. Of course, it gets me hyped. There's not a lot to take away from the trailer. There's not a lot that we can look to and actually say that we know what's going on. Of course, because it has the label of a teaser. It still has that label on it. And that's what it's supposed to do. You're not supposed to really walk away from it having any idea of the story. And I'm fine with that. But with that being said, I'm also walking away from it just being like, it was a trailer.
So I think a lot of people are kind of feeling that.
Yeah.
I think some people are actually, honestly, maybe a little disappointed. And what I will say...
And I understand that. I get that.
What I will say is that the Force Awakens trailers gave people this feeling like Lord, take me now. Like, I think people were happy and ready to die just from seeing those great Force Awakens trailers. And, I mean, they were able to, take you to another stratosphere. But it's like... just because this isn't the first one back, this feels more just like a movie trailer. And I think that's why people are disappointed, is because, and that's not a criticism of the trailer. I agree with you. It is still a great trailer, but it doesn't have those other stratosphere levels like The Force Awakens did naturally. It was a natural thing that was probably going to happen.
The most that we can take away from it, I think, is just what we've been talking about, what was probably the highlight of the entire panel to begin with, and that's Rian Johnson. I mean, this thing showcased
gorgeous
the visual aesthetic that Rian Johnson brings to the table. Like I talked about, that overhead shot of the island. Some of the, I mean, the shot of her hand with the rising rocks, obviously people are making the Superman jokes and whatnot.
Right.
But I mean, remind me a lot of Looper. Reminded me of some things in Looper.
That's the thing, though, too, man, because you're talking a lot about, and you're absolutely right. You're not wrong in saying this. You're talking a lot about what Rian Johnson is bringing with him to Star Wars, but there's also just so much. I'm trying to think of how I want to explain this. It's not always going to be what I think he's bringing with him. I think he's going to explode. I feel like he's playing with the toys in the sandbox, and he's going to be doing things that he hasn't done yet because he has all these things at his disposal. So that's the other side of it that we haven't really talked about. But I think we're already seeing that too. I mean, there are certain images that I don't even know what to make of them.
Yes, we both talked about the one of the some kind of tree, and we were talking about the scale of it. Like at one point when I first saw it, I thought it was like a long shot of a room.
Yeah.
And there was a light shining down in a room. If you kind of pause it, and I think Christian sort of agreed with this too, it looks more like a bookshelf.
I didn't see his bit on it.
Oh, you didn't see his trailer breakdown?
It was like a video essay type thing? Breakdown?
Sort of. It was pretty much him doing a solo podcast about with shots of the trailer.
And then Copster made put pictures together.
Telling Copster, he said, make sure you put an arrow here. An arrow would pop up. It was great.
Actually, I don't think Copster even needs Kristen to tell him that. I bet Copster did it on his own.
I'm sure you're right. But things like that shot, again, like that overhead shot of things, the shot of Luke overlooking that fire. I don't want people to think that we're just, hugging all over Rian Johnson's nuts. That's not, I mean, we are, but that's not what this is about. When certain directors come to certain movies, the way that things are shot without the content of the movie being dark, it can bring so much more weight to it. And I go back to Harry Potter films. When some of those later Harry Potter films, who was it that was the big changing point in those Harry Potter films? David Yates.
Well, Alfonso Cuarón. That's what was the turning
absolutely
point.
Alfonso Cuarón as well. When they brought those individuals to the table that had more thought-provoking cinematography and stuff, and they could just put all of that together, everything just seemed so much more... tangible isn't the word, but everything just seemed like when you saw a shot, you needed to be paying attention to it.
I think my favorite shots, the ones that were just like captivating, that pulled me in, were the shots of the new planet Crate. Those shots of those ships coming down over the plateau, and they're spraying the red smoke behind them, and they're charging towards Imperial walkers. I mean, that itself was great, and it also was unique to what we're talking about. It was unique to this Rian Johnson Star Wars. I hadn't seen anything quite like that in the previous movies that we've gotten. So things like that. I mean, that was the shot that was most beautiful to me, most striking. I remember kind of my eyes opening up a little bit when I saw that, just because it was so cool to look at visually. But yeah, like I said, that I wasn't quite sure what that shot was, but I am convinced that it's some kind of ancient text, and I talked about that in my trailer reaction. Good call on the Obi-Wan stuff, by the way. I didn't pick up on that, but yeah, the R2 and the Jedi Temple is clearly a flashback, because we've already seen that shot from The Force Awakens, and we already know that Luke's retired. So that's definitely a flashback. I'm excited to see. I don't know who's behind Phasma. I mean, I see other Stormtrooper helmets, but I'm hoping that Knights of Ren are involved there.
It's an interesting take, because it's another thing Christian pointed out. Should have watched this video.
No.
So,
because I can still claim these as my original take.
No, I think that's great. When I think Rian Johnson, or it might have been Daisy Ridley or Rian Johnson on the panel, they talked about how the First Order, even though Starkiller Base was blown up, they're not resting on their laurels. They're on the offensive. They're ready to engage in an attack.
They're still victorious.
Which, much like The Force Awakens, that's one of the first things we even saw was an attack from the First Order. That, by him saying that, I feel like that's how this movie is going to open up. We saw the shots of Poe running away and some sort of ambush. His TIE fighter, or not TIE fighter, his X-wing getting blown up. That trailer did a great juxtaposition, because what you see is that shot from behind Luke of some sort of maybe a Jedi temple or something engulfed in flames. When it cuts to the shot of Phasma walking, that shot looks to be of an X-wing hangar that has been attacked, and they're entering into the aftermath of some sort of attack. So I think it's made to make you think that those are part of the same,
right?
But they're Christian said this, and I sort of am agreeing with him. I didn't agree with everything he said in his breakdown, but I sort of am agreeing with that.
Going back to what was said at the panel, Daisy said something that made the entire audience kind of groan.
Yeah.
Which was that you're going to learn that Rey, sometimes meeting your heroes isn't always what it's cracked up to be. So I'm wondering what that means when you compare it to the last bit of dialogue in the trailer, which is the Jedi must end. The trailer ends on that note, but the beginning of the trailer is him training Rey. So what do those two things mean?
Yeah.
And then compare them to Daisy's statement on the panel.
I spoke about this in my post-trailer theories, but I've had this for a while, and I think some things are sort of reinforcing it, but I'm sure people are rolling their eyes. Of course he did. I'm sure he did. I think a lot of this movie, understanding this movie, is understanding Luke's state of mind. I mean, this is a guy who has absolutely been through it. His mentor in Obi-Wan was killed. His dad was his sworn enemy and did a lot of really, really, really bad shit.
Sorry, I was thinking about what Christian said. Where if Christian Harloff wrote Luke Skywalker dialogue, it'd be, my best friend died because my nephew's a moron.
Right. But yeah, and
which is why I think, and this isn't, again, probably a unique take, but we talked about it off air. I think that's why Luke is kind of already teary-eyed when Rey finds him on the island, is because he feels that his best friend passed through the Force. So
I mean, that's something I didn't mention in my my theories thing was that he just lost Han, his best friend, and he was focusing on rebuilding the Jedi. And what happened? Fucking Kylo Ren betrayed him, his nephew, and had some sort of another Jedi purge, so to speak, of I'm sure it was young individuals, young adults, kids, as we know that kids at a very young age or when they have to begin their training, who knows what he's seen. So of course he's probably this grumpy old man, very jaded, get off my lawn, so to speak. And I think understanding this idea and this philosophy of, if there are the only thing that has come with Jedi to his knowledge has been death and destruction, even though they are supposed to be people that bring peace, even though they are people that are supposed to keep the peace, that's the only thing that's happened. So much like old adages have always said, there must be, if there's good, there also must be evil. I think that's sort of what he's saying. My theory was that the training might have been, who knows, maybe she convinces him or something like that. But I'm sort of hoping.
Or maybe it's Chewie.
I sincerely think that, and I'm not the only one that said this, and I'm sort of buying into it, that maybe Star Wars is trying to move away from the idea of Jedi. Maybe they're trying to move on to something different. Obviously, there's stuff going on in Rebels with other entities just in the show, and that's fine.
The Inquisitors.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe he's going to be training her so that she can harness her Force abilities, and maybe she just to defend herself or help her friends. He knows that there is danger out there. I just don't think he wants to start. I don't think he wants to train another Jedi and then put it on her shoulders to have this responsibility to carry on this movement. Just go out there and be a fucking badass. And I heard you mention this, and again, this is another thing I mentioned in my video, but I heard you mention in your video that people had some sort of criticism with, well, how could she defeat Kylo? She wasn't even trained as a Jedi. I had no idea that was even a criticism.
Really?
Guys, shut the fuck up.
No, hold on. You don't know about the whole Mary Sue controversy?
No. What is this about?
I think the main reason this came to the forefront, you'll never believe who started this. Max Landis. Max Landis's argument. Max Landis's argument.
Chronicle's great, by the way.
Yes, it is. And
I just took it from your movie collection.
American Ultra is pretty good too, but
I haven't seen it.
A lot of fun. Best Kristen Stewart's been in years. And Jesse Eisenberg. Okay. Max Landis's argument is that she's a Mary Sue. She is thin because she didn't have to work to get to where she is. Her full potential has already been reached. It's not interesting that it's not interesting for a main character to already have every ability possible. She has everything at her disposal, and he says that it's a fault of the movie that this main character didn't have a period of learning that she already was.
Well, that is the biggest bunch of bullshit that I've ever heard in my life. So I hope somebody out there lets Max know this. If you've never seen the show,
this has already been a thing. He came under massive scrutiny.
Whatever. I don't know why. To me, the second I saw this movie, and I saw her, summon the lightsaber from the snow and be able to go, the way that was shot explained everything that I needed to know to me, because she was very, very raw in that moment. She was, Kylo Ren was overcoming her. But at a certain point, after Finn was struck down and she was overcome with even more passion, emotion, love, potentially, fear, all of those things that make up what the Force is, all of her raw energy, she could be an incredibly powerful Force sensitive individual. And much, I made this statement in my video. If anybody's ever watched Dragon Ball Z before, Gohan was the type of character who often relied on his raw anger and emotion to be one of the most powerful Saiyans to ever live. She could have that raw energy when we've all heard the stories before about like how mothers will move cars off of their kids when they've been run over.
Well, those mothers are Mary Sue's.
Exactly.
Hold on, let me stop you. Only
Okay.
because this debate is like a year and a half old.
Well,
so people have already kind of done this.
But there are people that probably don't know. I didn't know. I wasn't
no
privy
idea.
to this whole thing. But all I'm saying is that makes perfect sense, and that's feeding into this whole thing about the Jedi must end. I mean, if she is a powerful, force sensitive individual who can do what she did on her own by just relying on on just her emotions and all that stuff, that is such a cool character.
What I was laughing about as you were talking is that whether fans like it or not, it actually just comes down to midichlorians. So she just has a good abundance of midichlorians, and that's all you need to know if you want to put it that way. But anyway, yeah, that was something that's been debated.
Well, I didn't know, so I was pissed.
Where were we going? Anyway,
I already didn't like your stupid hair, Max Landis.
the last thing that I wanted to say about the trailer, which it was what I was going to say about the poster, but I saved it, is that what I like about the poster and the trailer, the fact that Kylo Ren...
You all right there?
Yeah, sorry. The return of Kylo Ren has me more excited than anything. I like the character. He's
My favorite character in Force Awakens.
See, that's what I was going to say. I don't agree with that. He's not like one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, but I defend him as a good character. I like...
It's the type of character we haven't seen in Star Wars before.
Especially against the people that are like, oh, emo Kylo Ren, he's just kind of a pussy. Well, he's an unhinged, crazy person.
Absolutely.
And that's why he's fascinating to watch. And his viewpoint is very interesting.
Every time he is on screen in that movie is unsettling. Those are the types of characters you celebrate.
Many great moments. The great moment of him stopping that bullet in the first scene by the Force. I mean, that was great. The moment where he's slashing the computer and the stormtroopers turn around, great moment. Where he force chokes a guy, that's a great moment. The last lightsaber battle between him and Rey is great.
It's incredible.
I love that scene.
The way it's shot.
Yes.
Shout out to JJ, man. The way that whole sequence is shot. Also, one of my favorite things about not just Kylo Ren, but whatever he is, he's not a Sith, obviously. We don't know. He's some sort of halvesy thing. All of these new abilities that he has are fascinating to me. Like, that's cool. I like that we're seeing things that we don't know. His ability,
also called a blaster a bullet. I'm sorry.
Whatever he does with his mind, he does it to Poe. He does it to Rey, where he's trying to search through their thoughts to extract things, and it's also used as like a torture mechanism. That's cool too.
Yeah.
Incredible. Adam Driver's a G.
So anyway, well, I don't know about that. I think
Just because he's in Girls.
No, I won't get into it. But
Okay.
I will say that
He's a funny looking fella.
I will say that him being kind of face to face with Luke on the poster is awesome, and his shot in the trailer is badass. My second favorite.
You don't see much of it.
I know. My second favorite shot. It's him just twisting his lightsaber.
When do you think that is?
I had to make it my thumbnail.
When do you think that is?
I have no idea.
But
someone I think the person he's looking at also has a lightsaber in their hand.
I think that is a shot of the flashback. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think the Knights of Ren come in. They
hold on. I'm thinking about the timeline because that happened like 7 years before The Force Awakens. So he would have been significantly younger.
Okay. Well, maybe that's not the case, but regardless, I would like to think that's what it was. The Knights of Ren come in and they're attacking and killing all these people, and he's face to face with Luke. For some reason, maybe Luke can't defeat him, and he takes his mask off and reveals that it's him. That would be cool.
Maybe it wasn't that long. I know that Kylo and Luke were hanging out 7 years prior.
Can I bring up another thing that Christian theorized that's got me really excited?
No, thanks.
There's the shot of Rey running sort of in the dark with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was like a little birdie told him this, but this could have just been completely fabricated by him. I have no idea, but he is under the impression that will be some sort of fight scene where it's Luke and Rey together having to fight against Kylo and the Knights of Ren, and that's what they're running at each other in that scene.
I have a theory that
it sounds so.
I have
great.
a theory that Christian talked to. There goes our YouTube. I have a feeling that Christian talked to the Lucasfilm Story Group before filming all of his videos on the weekend.
The last time sorry about all the F-bombs. The last time I was this hyped and got self-conscious of me dropping F-bombs was when we were both super hyped after finishing Game of Thrones and we stood up and podcasted.
Yeah. That's all I got on the trailer mainly. I mean, would you have anything else other than the space battle looked good?
Never been my favorite part of Star Wars. So
really,
yeah,
that was something that we missed in Force Awakens.
The best though, I think the best we've ever seen a space battle, in my opinion, was actually Rogue One. So a new bar has been set, in my opinion, and I'm excited to see that. That's something I think might always. It wasn't challenging we didn't. You're right. We didn't see it, but aerial battles in general, not something that J.J. Abrams is new to. Obviously, we saw a lot of it in Star Trek. So to see what Rian Johnson can bring to the table, I don't think that's something that he's ever really had to deal with before. So I'm excited to see what he does. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups.
What the hell's the matter with you? And my final thought is that there continues to be a visual climb as far as the quality. From Force Awakens, Rogue One was an improvement in my opinion as far as the visuals go.
No, you've got
and Episode 8 improves on that further. Two random tidbits that we got from Celebration. Just a quick take. Captain Phasma comic. There's going to be 4 issues that take place. It's basically her escape from Starkiller Base after she was thrown in the trash.
Another character we literally know nothing about.
Yeah, I think that this character deserves a comic, and I hate that they've already capped it at 4 issues, especially when, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you can barely get past the trash compactor in 4 issues. But then again, Shattered Empire was 4 issues, and that was a pretty great comic. But anyway, it takes place between Force Awakens and Last Jedi, how she escaped. Any thoughts on that at all?
If there's anything at all that I'm just not well versed in, it's actually Star Wars comic books. Not that I have any issue with them at all, but I mean, I've obviously I watch the movies. Obviously, I've dipped my toes into Rebels, and I've played Battlefront in many different versions of it. So,
do you have Marvel Unlimited or something? Do you have Comixology? Either one?
No, I was going to get it, but I'd never.
I want you to read Shattered Empire. It's 4 issues. It's about Poe's mother. It's kind of a game changer as far as what it changes kind of Star Wars forever. And a lot of people who don't read the comics have no idea why. But there's something that happens.
Tells you who Snoke is.
No, there's something that happens at the end of that comic that kind of changes what the Force is for people. And I'm waiting for them to bring it up in a movie. And I'll just leave it at that. It's only 4 issues, but I would highly recommend reading Shattered Empire. It's
Do you
a
have
lot
them?
of fun. Digitally.
Oh.
It's 4 issues. Just get them. Okay. The second tidbit. Last week we knew that Carrie Fisher's brother spoke on behalf of their estate, saying that Lucasfilm has permission to use stock footage of her to sort of replicate a performance of hers in Episode 9. However, Kathleen Kennedy came out and said that will not be the case, that she will not be replicated in any way for Episode 9, and that after her passing, there was sort of like a day one rewrite on Episode 9. This kind of falls back on the foundation that they set very quickly after her passing, which was that they were not going to create her digitally. And it sounds like that Lucasfilm is standing firm on that stance. Do you have any thought on that?
No, but I do think, well, I do. I don't know why I said no. I think it's interesting. I don't think this was I think maybe more or less this was them sort of calling an audible on it as opposed to giving misinformation to the estate of Carrie Fisher. I think that perhaps that was the plan to use the stock footage for episode 9, but because when she had passed, the movie was already done filming. Episode 8 was already done filming. So I find it hard to believe that they had already had an arc that wrapped up with her in episode 8, because I think leading up to that, we had heard reports that she had a lot to do with episode 9. So perhaps that additional unused footage was from episode 8, maybe even some Force Awakens stuff potentially. And it was used to potentially close a story arc on her character. Now, I'm a little worried's not the right word. I always get weirded out when somebody this beloved passes in real life and we have to see that recreated in film. I remember when Heath Ledger passed away with The Dark Knight, and dude, there's a scene of him in The Dark Knight in a body bag. He wasn't dead, and that like got me a little bit when I saw that for the first time.
It also got me when you actually see Heath Ledger's face in the parade scene.
Yeah, and so I don't know how they're going to handle it, but however they do it, I'm sure they're going to do it with great care. So, and I also don't want them to just be like, oh yeah, Leia's going to go away for a while. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want something like that either, but I have confidence in however they decide to do it.
I can't add to that much because everything else that I could or could not say just has to wait until we see episode 8. I mean, part of me has a hard time imagining that there could be such a 180 done to where this character is so prominent in episode 8 and then not prominent at all, and there's no way they're going to kill her off.
Have we heard word about the runtime of this movie?
Oh no, there's no way. I mean, they're probably nowhere near final cut.
Let's speculate. How long are you thinking for this movie?
220.
I think this is going to be one.
As in 2 hours, not 220.
I think this is going to be one of the longest Star Wars movies ever because there's so much.
What's the longest one? Is it episode 3? Is that the longest one?
I'm not sure, but because there was so little development in The Force Awakens, I feel like you obviously can't develop in the last one. You can't spend time developing. This is the time. This is their moment. And I feel like there's a lot to tell still. Here come the dogs. I feel like there's a lot to tell in this film, and I think they need to take their time. And just from what I know from Rian Johnson's directing, he's a guy that does like to take his time. I mean, developing things. One of my main criticisms with Looper was that I felt like they spent too much time developing, which is just my personal take, but
you had to clarify because you could see me just blankly staring
yeah, and
as you criticize Looper.
Yeah, but yeah, again, full confidence in this thing. If they came out tomorrow and they're like, guys, this is going to be a 4-hour movie, I'd be like, fuck yes, I don't care at all. Like, let's do it. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I'm thinking 220. Looper is better than Blade Runner. We're done with Friday. I don't want to take another break because we'll probably. Are we going to take a break now and then talk about Saturday, Sunday, or do you want to take a break after Saturday and close?
Let's do that. I feel better doing that. But
we can kind of. I think Saturday will move along faster because we have less to say about it. Probably.
Yeah, 100%.
Starting with the fact that we got our Rebels panel. Not only did we get the Rebels panel, but we got the Rebels trailer. And the only reason why this might be the quicker portion is just because we're not caught up on Rebels yet. I mean, I know some stuff about it based on context and just because I'm, always listening to things Star Wars. But what I did like about the panel is it's just like, I think Rebels is one of the most special things, and even Clone Wars, even though I'm not caught up on it, Rebels is just where you go to get everything else. Like it's where you go to get more context for the universe that you're in, where you get to see things, whether it be on the Rebellion side or the Empire side, that you aren't going to get from the movies, because the movies are so focused on like the black versus white and the heroics of being a Jedi, and the movies are going to be more focused on that. But when you go to Rebels, this is where you kind of see more of the aftermath that was like Order 66 with Kanan, or the Mandalorian culture with Sabine or Zeb. I mean, you get so much more in this type of show.
If you have a Star Wars itch that needs to be scratched, that's where you go, pretty much.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I think the show is well done from what I've seen. I'm in the middle of season 2 right now. I do like a lot of the characters, so much that I would actually love to see them in their movie form. Actually, I don't know how well that would translate, only because I feel like so many more people watch the movies that they have no use for these characters. You know what I mean? Or it's not the same for them. You know what I mean? It's not like it's only a very special Easter egg if Ezra shows up in another movie, whereas it's not going to do anything for most people. But anyway, I think that what I saw from this trailer, what's funny is people are like, if you're in the middle of season 2, why'd you watch this trailer? I've been spoiled of several things in the show. But also it's
I watched it and I felt spoiled by literally nothing. There was a dog in it that looks like my dog. That's about it.
I don't think you heard what I said. I know about things that I haven't seen yet in the show.
Right. As do I. I listen to
okay. Yeah. I didn't know that. But I thought the trailer was good, actually. I thought
Aren't we waiting for this?
Huh?
I thought we were waiting until tomorrow to talk about this. We're talking about it right now?
Why did you think that?
Because you asked me if we were going to take another break, and I said that we could just talk about it tomorrow. I mean, it's fine. We can talk about it.
Oh, I was saying that the break would come after this, and then we talk about Sunday and then close.
That's fine. Whatever.
I thought that's what you agreed to.
It doesn't matter. Just continue. We have a show to run here.
Okay. Where was I? Anyway, the trailer was great. I thought the narration was actually pretty epic. From Hera, I can't remember her name, the pilot. From her, and then we saw stuff from Sabine, and I just kind of thought it was a really cinematic trailer, and it really got me into wanting to watch Rebels again, because it's been a while. I've been on sort of a Rebels hiatus. But anyway, I like the trailer. What did you take from it, if anything? Or the panel, too, of course.
I didn't watch the panel. I did catch the trailer. I like the tone that they're setting with the trailer in terms of getting the announcement that this is the last season of Rebels. I think sets enough of a tone, but
correct, yeah.
But the tone of the trailer itself just seemed like coming to a close. And again, I hate to. This isn't like the Jedi Council after show. That's not what you've tuned into. This is still Sight and Sound. But again, Christian made a good point.
Oh boy,
by saying that he's going to listen to this. He's going to ask us to start covering that too. He made this point basically saying that one of the best things about this being the last season is that they finally get the chance to tell a story that is a little bit more focused. You know, they don't have to worry about the throwaway episodes with Chopper or anything like that. They just they can just kind of get down to brass tacks and tell the main story that they want to tell. And anytime you get a series finale season like that, I think that's one of the best things. It's also a scary time, I know as well, just from so many season-ending or series-ending seasons can go so well or so bad. So this show is so beloved by the people that follow it. I mean, the people that watch this show love this show. I mean,
and they're from all ages. Like,
absolutely.
Someone on the outside might think this is an animated kids show because it's on Disney XD, but talk about Christian Harloff in his 40s covering this show weekly. I mean, it's
literally his job. He's made it his job to pretty much do this.
Yeah, but he would have been our point being he would have been doing it anyway.
Right.
And that's
absolutely. He's made a career out of it.
So
yeah, look, I don't watch Rebels actively. There will be a day where I go back to it, but
that was my next question.
But let me just say, I will definitely go back to it at some point. Why not? It's, from what I've seen, it is such a good show, especially for what it is. But it's also, not only is it a good show for what it is, but Star Wars here. And what Disney has done by making putting this show in development, and obviously Clone Wars before it, they have established a great way to continue on with these franchises. I mean, the fact that they have laid the groundwork and said that this is going to be canon now. This is all canon. The fact that if you want more, like you said, if you want more of this stuff, this is what you have to do as a franchise. You need to be making this sort of content. A lot of people probably look at the show and say it's just a cartoon, but it's not just a cartoon. It's contributing.
Why are you hitting the shit out of your knees all of a sudden?
I don't know.
When talking?
This is just how it is. This is a show that is integral to the greater story of Star Wars that we all love.
It's like you're never going to get a movie that spends time on the follow-up between Kenobi and Maul. Yeah. But something that big is happening on Rebels, and I think that's the coolest thing about it. My question was going to be, you kind of already answered it. My next question was going to be, when the show's over, are you more inclined to binge it and kind of catch up on it in that sense?
Well, I'm more excited about what they're going to do next, like what Dave Filoni and his team are going to focus on, whether it's and when that's going to be. I personally am hungry. I'm not really hungry right now because we just ate, but I'm hungry for more Star Wars stuff in the years between Return of the Jedi, The Force Awakens, that 30-year span. I think when they go there, it's going to be a statement. And we're pretty much done talking about Rebels for the most part, because I want to make one last thing before we go to our next break, I guess. We're going to our break after this. Okay, We're not. But let me just say this. I'll just say it. I'm going to say it. I think this is an interesting time for Star Wars and Disney right now with the Last Jedi coming out, because The Force Awakens was sort of them putting their stake in the ground. This is where we're going. This is the roadmap. This is the tone. We're going to still keep our foot in the door with all this stuff in the prequel era, putting out stuff like Rogue One and Han Solo film and all this other stuff. I think right now where we're at is the door closing and another door opening in terms of them wanting to pave their own way, like I've already talked about for the last 2 hours. And I think that this is going to be a transition period for them to move ahead with Disney's Star Wars story. We've gotten a little bit of it, but I think this is the time for them to do that. And I think this is the middle. We have 3 movies. We got 1. We're getting 2, which is smack dab in the middle, and we're going to get 3, and then whatever else is after that. So I want Dave Filoni and his team to work on something like that. What story do you want to see them tell next? And what do you think they're going to tell next?
I think they're going to do another live action. Excuse me. I think they're going to do another animated.
Right.
But I want it to be live action so bad, because
I don't think the world is ready for a live action Star Wars show.
That's not a conversation I want to have right now.
Right.
But that's what I'm hoping for, just because it's the new thing. I mean, that's what people were wanting long before Lucasfilm was even bought out. Like, people still, because George Lucas teased us.
He had it in development.
He had it in development. He had all these scripts actually exist of a TV show, and it was at the time too expensive to make. But those days are long gone. I think it is time, especially when Netflix is spending all the money on a show like The Get Down and all the money on a show like Marco Polo. I know, Jesus Christ.
I know, right? Could you imagine if Disney owned Star Wars? All the money that.
Oh,
they can do that. Wait. What's that? Game of Thrones spends a lot of money? Fuck you. Get out of here.
The other thing,
Mickey Mouse, let it rain. Let it rain.
Quit saying the F word.
I'll say it whenever I want.
Look, the other thing that's interesting about this is all the rumors that Reed Hastings of Netflix is second in line to take Bob Iger's job as head of Disney when he leaves the company.
Who's that?
Huh?
Who's Rich Hastings?
Reed Hastings, in charge of content development at Netflix.
Didn't we go to school with a Reed Hastings? It's a joke. Okay, is it a safe space to make that joke?
So Battlefront 2, it's safe to say that Battlefront was a disappointment. I bought into it at the time. Like, I was so excited. We were about to go into The Force Awakens. I remember the protest videos from Jeremy Johns. I remember people kind of saying that they weren't going to buy into this game because they weren't giving you a game. It wasn't enough. But I didn't care. I just wanted to play. I love the original Battlefront games. I was so hyped up because of Star Wars. I did it anyway. It did not last. I mean, the game was fun at first, but it came and went so hard. And I think that is what most people feel and think about their experience of that game. I know some people are still playing it, but I'm not convinced that they're having a great time with it. This panel was awesome. Did you see any of the panel?
I did not see any of the panel.
If you had, you would have been blown away.
Would I have dug my Xbox One out of my closet right here?
Yes. Look, they have promised us so much. They have promised us not only a full game, but what could potentially be one of the greatest Star Wars games. It gives us the single player campaign mode that is now we know it's coupled with this book that was announced, I believe last month, Inferno Squad, which Inferno Squad, when the book was announced, it sounded like just the opposite of Rogue One, which didn't really sound interesting at first. But now that we know it's coupled with this game and have more context, the book is the precursor to the character and the game mode that we have. And it sounds really cool. Inferno Squad is this new ragtag team of the Empire. And basically the game is about avenging the Emperor's death after the Death Star explodes for the second time in Return of the Jedi. And the cutscenes look great. And that's what we got in this trailer. They talked about how this game spans the entire timeline of Star Wars that exists, where you get some of the prequel era, original trilogy era, and like Kylo Ren is a playable character, Rey is a playable character, all the things that they sort of had to add on via DLC in the first game. You're already getting it in Battlefront 2, and you're getting all of their the custom vehicles that go along with it, and you can like create classes, and it just finally feels like a real game. And the fact that it seems to be a great story, it's just everything that you want as a Star Wars fan in a game. And I think it looks absolutely incredible. You saw the trailer, Jay. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it looked really, really good. I mean, the story alone was interesting to me. Like I said, I just said it a minute ago that I wanted to see what happened between The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. I'm getting it with this game. I mean, it's literally the stuff that happens immediately after. And I think that's fascinating. I think it's awesome and really cool that we're getting canon material via the game. I bought Battlefront like around Christmas time this year. Never played it. I still haven't played it to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. I just didn't have time doing a bunch of podcasts. And so, but I did play the Battlefront games. One of the more underrated games from actually when I was in college, I remember skipping class habitually and playing this game and trying to find people to play it with me. And nobody was playing Battlefront 2 for Xbox 360. Was it 360 or Xbox One?
I think it was on Xbox One, but it might have been
not backwards. Xbox One, but the first Xbox.
I think it was Xbox.
Yeah, so I loved it, man. I thought it was great. It was one of my favorite games back then. I didn't, like I said, I didn't play the first Battlefront, but to know, I've never been a huge multiplayer video game player anyways, but the fact that they didn't have it at all, I thought was a little annoying.
You mean campaign? They didn't have campaign at all.
Yeah, a campaign. Yeah, the single player was kind of just like, what are we doing here? We're just running around doing shit. Yeah, I don't really know how much more I can contribute to other than it sounds really good.
I was going to say, but you finally feel like you're excited for it, for a game.
I'm excited
more so
for
than
it.
The first time.
I'm excited for it. I would like I want a mode like they had in Battlefront 2 where essentially they had a storyline from different perspectives, and they would drop you into a battle.
Right.
And you would run around, and if you died, you would respawn as another character, and whoever's side killed everybody else first won. That was really fun.
I was surprised by a lot of the concept art that came about because, you hear, I mean, the Battlefront games have done things in the original trilogy era and the prequel and all that stuff. And you've always kind of been able to play as different characters. But they showed concept art of Camino. And I'm like, wow, that's a really great setting for this video game. And it's like they're giving you just kind of everything and more. That's kind of the attitude. And I think that they are doing it in response to how Battlefront was handled. I kind of think in addition to the fact that they know that people were probably disappointed, I think it's just different because they were rushed in that first game to get something out. Whereas they weren't as rushed this time, and they were able to kind of think about what they wanted out of a game. So I think that we're going to be very happy come November. And again with the book, if people were concerned about that, because at first I kind of thought it was a lame idea. Now I'm excited for that book as well, which comes out in I think the book comes out in July, and then the game will be in November. So anyway, I'm very much looking forward to learning about. We were just talking about Force Unleashed, and we were talking about how great a character like Starkiller was. I'm hoping that we get a sense of that with the lady that drives Battlefront 2, and I can't think of her name right now, but I hope to know it very soon. So anyway, I'm just ecstatic, and I was hoping that this panel was one of the best, and I think it absolutely was. So that's all I have to say. I think we're ready for another break, and then we'll get into everything we saw on Sunday and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, like we said, we're recording this on a Saturday. We haven't seen Sunday yet, so we're going to take a break. You guys won't know it, but we'll take a break. We'll come back the next day. Hopefully nothing happens to either of us in between now and then. Real quick, just for my own sake, what are we looking at tomorrow's schedule? Is it books? Are we looking at Star Wars novels?
Well, the weird thing is that this morning, when I saw on Twitter, they had promised the Marvel panel, the comic stuff, but that was nowhere to be found today, unless I absolutely missed it. Instead, there was a huge cosplay competition, which was pretty funny to watch. So I assume that we're going to get the Marvel stuff on Sunday. And then I'm hoping that there's going to be some kind of like huge announcement, some kind of big announcement, whether it be some Han Solo stuff, maybe even something involving Obi-Wan. I'm hoping that
Childish Gambino closing out the entire event.
Maybe. So
what if that actually happened? You're like, holy shit, this is.
It'd be pretty funny, but I don't think that's.
I'm not going to use my catchphrase. I will have foreseen it, but I'm not feeling it. The force is not strong with what I'm seeing.
We are going to get some book stuff from the Del Rey novels, so maybe a little bit more on Inferno Squad.
That I'm excited about. Legitimately
really?
Excited. Absolutely. I don't read these books. I mainly get the breakdowns on them on Jedi Council, and I always kind of am like touching the water to see if it's hot enough for me to actually, consume, because I don't know. I'm very interested. Like I said, I want to know more new stuff that actually matters, the canon stuff. I remember back in the day reading some old Star Wars novels that are now part of the Legends stuff, and being like, okay, so this is supposed to tie into the story. I don't buy any of this, but I like the pacing that they're releasing all of these things, especially the books. Talk about something to be involved with if you have a itch that needs to be scratched. I mean, those books, a deep dive into some great characters like Thrawn, for instance, which I haven't heard anything about that book. I don't know if it's good, if it lives up to
I haven't gotten to read it yet because of leftover stuff.
But absolutely. We're anticipating the announcement of a few more novels?
I would assume that it's like 2 or 3 novels. Absolutely.
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, well, we'll be back after our break to talk about it. Are you going to close this out?
No, you just did.
All right. We love you guys. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Sight and Sound has a YouTube channel? If you didn't, you need to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Sight and Sound, or you can find a link in the description of this podcast. But yeah, if you're wanting more Sight and Sound content, you can get a ton of it over on our YouTube page. There's a lot more content over there. I do music reviews. Ryan talks about movies. We talk about TV, obviously. And yeah, it's kind of a nice little place to go if you need some more Sight and Sound in your life.
So, we thought things were going, we both thought things were going to happen at Star Wars Celebration on Sunday. It's Sunday now. So what, you thought that there was going to be a Marvel panel today? Was that right?
At one point when I looked at the schedule, they said that the Marvel panel was happening on Saturday. And I think I said this earlier, that it just never happened. And then another time that I looked at the schedule, that it said that it was going to happen on Sunday, and then it just never happened again. So I've been watching Celebration off and on, but at the same time, everything that's covered at Celebration is also covered on Twitter. It's also covered on film blogs. I have seen no evidence of this Marvel panel.
Right.
I was also under the impression that we would get some kind of Han Solo tease. It didn't have to be footage, just an acknowledgement. Seeing Alden Ehrenreich at one point, like there was zero acknowledgement that Han Solo was even a thing at Celebration.
A little surprised by that.
I find that very weird. I'm not even judging that. Oh, we should have gotten a teaser. It's
That's not a critical point for you.
It was the pure absence of it that I find very peculiar. And then we also expected an announcement for the next TV series. I'm actually a little, I actually don't mind that as much, because I think that even that was maybe jumping ahead. Like Celebration was about the announcement of Rebels ending. So I think you would kind of overshadow that in the anticipation for our final season if you had prematurely announced it. So I'm actually more okay with that, even though I went into the Celebration thinking that's what we were going to get.
So we came out of Star Wars Celebration on Sunday, wrapping it up. I thought, I mean, obviously you've got your ear more to the ground than I do, but I actually really did think that we were probably going to get some sort of big closing ceremony announcement, maybe. But I had even joked to you earlier that what if we got another teaser trailer for Last Jedi, which was completely like,
bogus, but it was
but that would have been fucking sick. Like that would have been a music, that would have been like a music thing to do, to be like, oh, we dropped this, now we're gonna drop this too. But did it at least disappoint you maybe that we didn't get something more to talk about from today?
It did disappoint me, but now I know. I have 2 Star Wars Celebrations under my belt. I just know that the last day is never going to be anything to me.
Yeah. Because
I kind of thought that Star Wars Celebration London last year was sort of an outlier because so many people were disappointed by it. This year they'll make up for it, but Sunday is just, I guess, never supposed to be anything.
Yeah.
We got the Hamill himself panel, which I really would have been into, but I was busy. It's Easter Sunday, and we had I had some other things going on, but at least. But
did any additional news come out of that? Any discussion topics that people were buzzing about?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't read or heard about anything that happened today.
Okay, well let's wrap up Star Wars Celebration. I want to go back to actual The Last Jedi for one more time before we wrap this whole thing up. But so Star Wars Celebration of 2017, we get the 40-year panel, we get the Last Jedi stuff, we get the Rebels stuff, we get the Battlefront stuff. Those 4 things do those all tick boxes in terms of Star Wars Celebration 2017 was a success?
Yes.
You think it was?
Yes.
Despite the fact that it sort of kind of petered out in the last 2 days?
I wouldn't say that it petered out in 2 days.
Okay.
I think it petered out miserably in 1 day. But maybe that's just how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just how it is, and I was under the wrong impression.
Did Childish Gambino close out the entire ceremony?
Yes.
He did. Was it woke? Did he stay woke?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, look, I had a blast sort of staying up to date on this. It was a big weekend, I think, for pop culture in general. I mean, we just finished The Leftovers. We're about to record our podcast for that. Hopefully you guys are watching that show with us as well. But you had the Coachella stuff. I heard a lot of people talking about that. I went over for Easter Sunday, and my junior year cousin, is that the right way to say it? My cousin, who was a junior in high school, was talking about the Coachella stuff, and I was like, wow, you know about this? That's crazy to me. She got out the fact that Migos and Drake joined Future on stage before I could even address it to her, which made me very, very happy.
What was that like? Because you're usually the person that likes to tell other people about that kind of stuff. Well, okay, did you know this? And yes, Jay.
Well, I mean,
yes, I did.
I was happy about it. I actually missed Drake's performance with Future, but anyways. Besides that, we also got the Kendrick Lamar album drop, and still, I think the Star Wars stuff, as it should be, I don't think it should be in any question, but I think it was definitely the highlight of the weekend. Such a crazy weekend, and I think it's a good way to cap it off with a 3-hour Star Wars Celebration episode.
Yeah, we got pretty close.
We might break it. I do want to ask you a few questions, because I asked you this off air. Your take on, I know your take on the Last Jedi trailer and all of that stuff, but I don't know what you think about this movie. I don't know what you think we have to expect. You keep saying I don't know, and I think that's a very valid question. You're not the type of guy that likes to theorize and stuff like that?
Not really. No.
Okay.
I mean, I can't even come up with an answer to that question. It is just I don't know. Part of it is because I imagine things and I think about things, but it's hard for me to actually believe that anything I come up with on my own, because it's so uneducated, would actually come true. So I don't usually waste my time discussing it or entertaining my own ideas, I guess. I mean, for years, I thought about what The Force Awakens would look like. I mean, after that movie was announced and Disney bought Lucasfilm, not a single day went by where I thought about Episode 7 for years. And that it's kind of the same, but it's kind of not now, because it's like you have just enough to where you have a general idea of where it's going to go, but it's, again, just so there's still so much left to fill in that I don't even waste my time doing that, at least this early in the game.
I find it mildly hard to believe, though, just because I know you're a massive fan.
I think if you asked me specific questions, I might be able to tell you. Like, if I think so, like, we had an off-air discussion the other night where you were like, "Do you think we'll see Snoke in the trailer?" And at the time, I had thought yes. So maybe I'm better at illustrating it that way. But as far as like connecting dots, I'm not going to be able to do that kind of stuff for you, I don't think.
This is why it's hard for me to believe, because I know you're a massive fan, and I know you think about these things. And I also know that you are a creative person. You've done screenwriting stuff in the past before, and I find it hard to believe that you don't at least run through like, man, wouldn't it be cool if blah 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 happened? Wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And then you probably run that through your logic calculator and say, oh, maybe it could happen.
Okay, so I do that, but again, it's like I don't I think it's so uneducated that like it might be a cool idea that I have, but I don't entertain it because I don't think it's actually going to happen in the movie.
So you just don't want to vocalize it?
No, it's not even that. It's just like, well, what if a Star Wars movie did this as opposed to, since we got this in The Force Awakens, what if this happens in The Last Jedi? It's more of like a general, wouldn't it be cool if, instead of like an educated. So, just from hearing you talk, something that came into my mind that I considered was, is Luke Skywalker going to die in this film?
Right.
That is something that I've thought about. I say no. Based on the fact they've made it a point to say that this is still a Skywalker trilogy. It is still very much a Skywalker trilogy. And given the fact that I truly do not believe Rey is a Skywalker, that means it's about Luke and it's about Kylo because of his lineage. And we got that from the poster. And I just have a hard time believing that they're going to kick all of the seniors to the curb like dominoes, like one by one. Like I don't see Force Awakens killing off Han, and then Episode 8 killing off Luke, and Episode 9 killing off Leia. I don't think that was ever part of it. I don't think they have to make that statement. I agree with you that I think it's time to sort of pass the torch, but I think all three movies are about that.
Okay.
I don't see Luke dying in this. I think that he will still play a role in Episode 9, maybe even more so than ever before, because they don't have Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, that's the news that we sort of talked about on the previous segment.
So I don't know if that kind of tickles your fancy there.
A little bit.
That I'm going off on that tangent, but I just don't see it that way. I see it as I have a very interesting relationship in mind, because so much has built up Rey and Luke's relationship just based on that final scene in The Force Awakens. The fact I can't imagine him dying within 2 hours of witnessing that relationship, even with some kind of time jump, whether it be a flash forward 3 years later after she first meets him, like something like I can't picture it being a one and done. That might be the best way to put it.
Right.
So, and it also kind of maybe cheapens Han Solo's death a little bit. Like if it's just like a.
Here's another one.
I was gonna say, if it's just the gimmick, you get one per movie. I don't buy it, and I think you have a lot. I think you have a lot to do with that relationship, and that does play into the fact that I think Rey is a Kenobi, because it's sort of like Luke feels this responsibility to carry her for quite a long time, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. I'm happy that you've given me your take on that side of things. Now, one more minor question that I have, just for sort of fun. Do you think there's any chance that we get in this movie, or even up until Episode 9, that we see somebody go from good to bad or bad to good? If there's any movie, in my opinion, where we see somebody go from good to bad, it's The Last Jedi. It's not in Episode 9, because I don't know how you wrap up a story doing that, unless then they're like, and there's 3 more movies after this, which I'm sure there will be. But
good to bad, I don't think Luke's going to turn bad. Like, I think he is apathetic to the whole thing, but I don't see him giving up. I feel like Luke Skywalker would be a really shitty character if he turned evil after Han Solo died.
right.
I just think I would hate that decision. So as far as good to bad, I can't see that happening. There's a lot of people that talk about or speculate on if Kylo is going to go from bad to good. I don't see that happening either. I'm expecting them to sort of stay. I'm expecting them to.
He's almost too much of a bastard. Like, we've seen it. We've seen it with our own eyes. He's done something so shitty, like killing his father.
I think the only way, if there was like a final moment of sacrifice in Episode 9 from him, then maybe. But because I think that he could do something good at the end, but it wouldn't be enough for me to be like, oh, I'm a Kylo Ren fan now. Like, it has to be like, you know what? He needed to do that, but because he's been a bitch all along. Like, you know what I mean? So that's sort of how I see that. I don't have that in mind. I don't see any kind of arc in that way.
So to put kind of a nail in this coffin, there will not be a Star Wars Celebration next year. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the next thing that we have to look forward to on this year's calendar is D23. Is that what's next?
Comic-Con is first.
Okay,
and then
Comic-Con's
D23 happens like a week after that.
What do you think we get out of Comic-Con? Maybe that Marvel panel that just disappeared?
No, I mean, there might be someone's going to comment. I already know Marvel thing happened on this night, so it might have already happened. But again, I've seen zero evidence of it, except with that Phasma announcement. But I don't think the next Last Jedi trailer will come out during either one of those things. Maybe D23. They might keep it away from Comic-Con, but I mean, I think they liked the idea of having it during Monday Night Football on ABC. So I could see them doing something like that again around September. But again, who knows? Comic-Con, I could kind of see them keeping Last Jedi away from Comic-Con and maybe doing that first look at Han Solo.
Yeah.
At least with the cast. But it's sort of like...
well, they're not going to give us anything at D23.
So I don't think... Well, okay, it's different because Rogue One never saw the light of day until Force Awakens had come out, because you've talked about how Warner Brothers can be confusing people with this Wonder Woman and Justice League stuff being rolled out at the same time.
Yes, absolutely.
Star Wars has not done that, but the difference here is that Han Solo comes out 6 months after The Last Jedi does.
Right.
So there's going to have to be some overlap. So if anything, I think we might see like a Han Solo panel and a very small tease at Comic-Con.
Okay, D23. What do you think? What is there left to give us at D23? New TV show stuff potentially, because it's centered around Disney.
It depends. I mean, it depends on if I don't know if they're going to go ahead and tease what's going to replace Rebels if it's an animated show. So if they are somehow blowing our minds and also promising an animated show to replace Rebels, but also a live action elsewhere, that might pop up.
Which live action is just speculation.
But the more time I've had to think about that kind of thing, I just don't know if that's going to happen yet.
John Campea seems to believe, because apparently he has a connection with somebody in the team, the Star Wars animation team, that they're already in development. They've been in development for a significant amount of time on the next animated show.
There's no question about that, because I mean, animated shows work a lot differently than live action. I mean, those voice actors like Freddie Prinze Jr., all those guys, they've already finished season 4 entirely. Like, as far as like production of those episodes, it's pretty much
could that have been those
wrapping up?
Could that have been those web shorts with Rey and
no? I mean, those are those are like 2-minute things per character. I mean, they're great, but that's Bush League. That's not anything more than what we've already heard. So.
Well, I'm excited to sort of keep our ear to the ground, and of course, if it's major news, you guys will hear us talking about it here on Sight and Sound Weekly, I'm sure. And as always, make sure you guys are staying tuned to our YouTube channel. We have so much content. We've done so much content on Star Wars so far, and I'm sure we're going to have more coming out as stories develop. We've also got music reviews, movie reviews, all of that stuff. You guys know where to find us on YouTube. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that yet. We're also on social media at Sight Sound Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We just announced today on Sunday, when we're recording this part, that we are on the verge of dropping new merchandise. We're actually sort of working out who is going to be the ones to kind of put that stuff together. So as soon as we figure that out, we're going to launch it for you guys to buy it and stuff. Got a lot of interesting reactions from people on that stuff, good stuff, but people wondering where the Team Dong shirt is. We had Luke ask about that, and my buddy Ross Cassidy also asked about that. I feel a little weird making a Team Dong shirt but maybe I'll make that as one of the exclusives. Like, I would never wear that shirt, honestly, but I'm seeing like maybe a baseball tee with like a baseball like logo going across it that says hashtag Team Dong in like a sweeping pennant sort of shape. Maybe with a number on it. I don't know what that would be, but we'll see. Anyways, just stay tuned to our social media for more announcements and stuff like that. We've got a lot of cool junk going on. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E.
You can find me on Twitter at WhatUpSnell. Just a reminder, if you have subscribed to our podcast via iTunes, you're going to be seeing our Leftovers after show appear. So just keep that in mind and watch that show with us, please, and have those kind of conversations with us because we'd love to talk to you. And also follow the Leftovers on the TV Showtime app because that's where the show will appear as well. And we have a lot of fun over there. We also announced on the latest episode of After Schmo that we were running a giveaway for all of you Schmovillians. So if you're listening to this and you're a Schmovillian, and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do that and just give us some kind of evidence, whether it be a heads up on Twitter or a screenshot of some kind. That way we know that you just subscribed. And we're going to, at the end of a couple weeks, pick a name out and get you a free Schmo's Nose shirt of your choice. So we're running that giveaway right now. Go crazy. And that's all I got.
Absolutely. A lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys on the next one.